Warning, this podcast contains heavy spoilers for not just one movie, but entire franchises. We highly recommend going and watching these movies before listening to us as a companion piece that stitches all the timelines into one creepy, crime-ridden story. There will be no more spoiler warnings. We do not break character. After this, there is no turning back. You've been warned. Hit the music.
You are talking about the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic mind.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello, freaks and fiends, and welcome to It's Alive podcast. It's a true crime, paranormal, interstellar podcast covering unbelievable stories that sound like they were stripped from the pages of a Hollywood script. I'm your host, the outlaw Dr. Harley Ray Smokenstein, THC, and with me as always is my very own Scream Queen, the perfect combination of beauty and brains, the bride of Smokenstein, the indie heart expert, the guts and gore, the grindhouse guts and gore, the gorgeous, the sexy Bunny Rose.
We're back.
See, this is the issue, right?
Yeah.
It's an issue. I can see how it's an issue. I can see how it's a problem that
What's
I need
an
to
issue?
work on. Well, you get me, you wind me up and you set me off.
And you can't
I'll
stop.
keep going.
Yeah.
And especially with that last Sawyer saga that we did, where it started off as we were going to do 5 parts and then we're going to stop. And we stopped at, episode 8.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was going
Sure
along, things were evolving.
Yeah.
And suddenly I was in this like fucking pit, this hole, this literally down the rabbit hole so fucking far that I was up until
A
like
Sawyer hole.
5 or 6 o'clock in the morning writing and editing and getting everything done because we had a week planned off. But as soon as you stopped me, and I knew at that point in this, I was like, I'm fucking hitting the wall here hard and I'm just
You
trying to
needed a
drive
break.
through it.
You needed a week to
So
yourself.
I needed to take a week off. But the problem is once I start taking time off, I like it and I don't want to come back. It's not that I don't want to come back. It's just hard to get me back into the lab to get working, you know?
It's like in school when we'd be going to play a match and the thoughts of actually getting changed for the match used to be a killer, and then you're changed and it's like, oh, let's get out on the pitch.
It's more like when you get a day off school and then realizing you have to go back.
Oh, yeah.
It's just and it wasn't. It was just because the weather hit nice, and that's rare in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just one thing after the other, and then of course like we discussed it on our time off. We're like, how can we make things better? Because as you see throughout the horrorverse, things have changed. Little things have changed.
Yeah.
Certain shows have went away. Certain shows have appeared, and we're going to try something new going forward. But we kind of like decided, all right, the best thing we could do here is twice a year you go away and you come up with 2 big stories you want to cover, and we'll do one at Halloween and we'll do one around the start of spring, like we did with the Sawyers, like we usually do with Halloween, like we did, I think, Charles E. Ray last year, the year before last, and that kind of shit. I was like, that's a great idea. In fact, I know exactly what I want to do for next spring. I'm going to start looking at it now, and that's next week's subject. That looked like it could be a 2-3 parter, and I'm looking and I'm like, oh shit, this is.
I think you just have an addictive personality.
This next story is going to span years for us. I mean, like, we're going to be covering this subject
With breaks,
for
like
years.
this.
Oh, yeah.
This
In
isn't
the
just
sense
going
of
to be
it'll
the topic for the next few
reoccurring
years.
fucking
Yeah.
thing. But just to lay the groundwork for having that ability to throw episodes in here and there, little legends of this history that we're going to cover. I planned for 3 episodes. I'm certain it'll be 4. I'm hoping it won't go past 6.
It means it's going to be 8.
I'm going to try my hardest to temper my writing a little bit and just hold it back a little bit and try and stick to 4 so that I'm not pushing too much. But it seems like it might be hard. Put it this way,
If you stick to 4, I'm going to start seeing scripts with 200 pages.
Yeah, well, there's 25,000 years minimum to cover.
Well, now you've just given it away.
In this next
Well, no,
series.
it could be 2 series.
So it's difficult, but we'll figure it out. And I hope that I will not be sitting here in 2 months' time going, I can't do it anymore. I've been in space so long. I don't know what to do. Fucking pitch a tent and fucking Skywalker Ranch and just chill out. But yeah,
No, definitely give it away.
But this week though, I just felt like we had spent 8 weeks giving a bad rap to camping. Okay. To the wilderness, to the woods.
So now you're reining it back with happy camping.
So we're coming back. Yeah, we left you with the worst that the
America has to do with
deep
camping
wooded
woods.
areas have to offer, and now we're coming back with the best.
Depends what kind of mood you find them in, though. I would say.
I don't know. If this story doesn't make you believe that this cryptid is
Are you a believer?
friendly, I don't know what will. And I mean, again, if you look at the history, which we will be doing exhaustively this week, throughout this and it's a live action, the bonus show.
Yep.
I don't see any. I mean, early, very, very, very early, as we're about to get into, very early talk of this animal is violent. And then it seems like the dialogue changes and suddenly it's vegetarian and it stays away from people and it doesn't like being around people. It doesn't want to be around people.
Did it start staying away from us once we start getting guns?
I don't know. We will have to figure that out as we go along. I don't know if I went that deep into the history because we've got some of the history today because the story needs to be told. And then we'll cover kind of more of the history on it to live action on Thursday, tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you can check that out. And the story we are covering today is a story by the Hendersons.
Sure.
About
is.
Harry the Bigfoot.
Oh,
And I love
Harry.
this story. So,
I do like this story.
So we will get cracking with that and restore the good name of the woodland.
Okay.
It's not all hillbilly, redneck, fucking cannibals who want to fuck you and eat you sitting in the woods.
Fuck you and eat you.
Well, I mean, I'm not just looking at them. I'm looking at other cases as well. I mean, you heard about that
Really?
case from the 70s of those 4 guys who went up rafting around and then those hillbillies came out of nowhere and squeal like a pig.
I thought you meant the big feet, big foots.
No.
Sorry, I was like,
Bigfoots don't
I've
rape people.
never heard of a story about that. That's what I was wondering.
But you know what I am interested in? Because we've never seen one. And I know their boobs are hairy, right? I believe their boobs are hairy from what we read here. But is a Bigfoot penis hairy?
If it is, it's kind of a contradiction because if it's a hairy penis, it's called a hobbit cock. So it's a Bigfoot with a hobbit cock.
Why do hobbits have hairy dicks?
No idea, but that's just a slang term for a hair that goes up the shaft. Hobbit cock.
Yikes.
Yeah. There's a new one for you.
Okay. So, right, let's get into this. Let's
Okay.
kick us off with some Bigfoot knowledge here. We'll start with some history.
So, the Bigfoot is often described as large, muscular, bipedal human or ape-like creature covered in black, dark brown or dark reddish hair. Anecdotal descriptions estimate its height at roughly 6 to 9 feet tall, although some reports claim the creature stood as high as 10 to 15 feet. Some alleged sightings describe Bigfoot as appearing more human than ape, particularly in the face.
First things first, right, before I get on to my next bit here.
Go for it.
I don't think people realize it, but there is a huge difference in a foot when it
Oh,
comes to
6
height.
to 9. Yeah.
So 6 to
definitely.
9 or even 10 to 15 feet is no, I mean, 15 foot is like beyond giant size.
Well, 15 is 3 of me.
I mean, like you got to look at, and 3 of you stacked on top of each other will be half of the, will be, well, this is a bungalow, so you pretty much be at the top of
What
the
our
house.
ceilings to be about 13 foot, no?
Huh?
Our ceilings would be 13 foot high, yeah? Or is that my parents' ceilings? Because I know their ceilings
I
are a bit
mean,
higher.
look at like the likes of Andre the Giant, the Big Show, other wrestlers like that. They're
Yeah.
7 foot. Tala Tonga. Let's talk about Tala Tonga.
No, he's
right?
7 foot.
That dude is, and I don't even think he is a solid 7 foot.
So he's just
And
under 7 foot.
Remember the time he was, he wrestled once in AEW. He wrestled like 1 or 2 matches in AEW before he went to WWE.
Mm,
And I spotted him because I knew him from New Japan.
yeah.
And I spotted him at ringside.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there. But it looked like he was standing because he was still taller than everybody else that was standing around him. I was
Yeah.
like, see the dude with the long hair there? he's sitting down. I was like, when he stands up, we're all in trouble. But I mean, that's 7 foot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Imagine 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's fucking BFG fucking standards here. So, I mean, that's a wild mistake. And we noticed that as well as we get into one of the stories, the main story, especially the two guys who got the video footage of their description of the height. And we'll see that, like most people who study the footage reckon that Bigfoot was only 6 foot, which would put him on my height. Mm-hmm. I'm 6'1".
Yeah.
It's bizarre because, like I said, you think a foot isn't a lot until someone a foot taller than you stands next to you and you're like, and holy shit, you're a big
It's
bad.
Pretty substantial.
Do you know? So in 1971, multiple people in Dallas, Oregon filed a police report describing an overgrown ape, and one of the witnesses claimed he had the creature in his scope. The scope of his rifle, that is, but couldn't fucking pull the trigger because they looked more human than man. So that's kind of going back to what you said there about big feet, big foots, big foot eye. I don't know.
Oh, it's definitely not big foot eye, Josh. Big feet or big foots. Big foots.
Having a more human face, or emotional face.
Yeah.
You know,
more expressive.
Yeah. I assume it just means you can tell them apart. But
or you can tell if they're happy, or you can tell if they're sad, or if you can tell if they're...
Yeah, but from the way they describe Harry, the Hendersons describe Harry, it's almost like he had his own kind of...
features?
Yeah. And like, let's face it, a dog is a dog. You look at one dog. I mean, like, I remember when our first family dog died. And then we got another, and then I was around town and I saw other black Labradors around. And I was like, that looks exactly like Rex. I was like, that could literally be Rex.
Oh yeah, I've seen it in golden retrievers.
I mean, animals. So, I mean, a chimp is a chimp. You see one chimp, you can't really differ. If I put two chimps in front of you and you just met them and I shuffle them up and I say, tell me which one's which, you're not going to know.
I would assume though, if you're a zookeeper and you were working with a group of chimps, you'd be able to tell the difference. There'd be different subtleties. We kind of,
But I mean, it seems more like there was a lot of expression.
Okay.
In the Bigfoot face.
Yeah.
You know? And I think Bigfoots is actually the right.
Bigfoots.
I believe.
Oh, it's killing me.
To them,
it's
Bigfoot.
This just sounds like really bad grammar.
So yeah, this guy in Oregon did have his scope on him and just couldn't pull the trigger because of how human he actually looked in the face.
Wow.
Which I suppose is what differentiates him from
animals.
Well, just from gorillas in general.
Yeah, that
everything else
how tall they are.
Except no, gorilla I suppose is hunched over. And Bigfoot is notoriously like human, like when it stands and walks.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly, it has a human gait like. So common descriptions include broad shoulders, no visible neck, and unusually long arms. Features many skeptics attribute to misidentified bears standing upright.
Well, again, we say this a lot when we're watching Paranormal Cotton Camera on TV.
It's a bear.
a lot of this time is like, because let's face it, this pisses me off so much, right? If you or me went on a night out and did something stupid, every cunt with a phone would get
video.
The HD 4K in cinemas now. Watch these people make fools of themselves.
Yeah.
But as soon as an alien ship shows up, as soon as a cryptid
blurriest
walks by,
videos you can get.
Cameras go to shit.
Yeah. Back to the 70s.
Do you know, it's like, what the fuck?
The best Bigfoot video I have seen, anybody has seen, was recorded in the 70s. Fucking what? 50 fucking years
60s.
ago? 60s. Worse. 60 years ago.
Which
I mean,
is
like
the basis of this story.
Yeah.
Two of the characters.
But I've never seen a Bigfoot video as clear as that one.
Pretty much, and that's why it's kind of shit on so much.
Yeah.
But again, we're going to talk over the top about that. But like, it just pisses me off because you think in this day and age we'd have some clear footage or something. But even now, all you really get is something peeping through the trees or something standing behind the trees. And like you said, notoriously, we all learned from Jungle Book that, you know,
they love
bears
shaking
like
against
to
trees.
scratch their backs on trees. It's how I learned how to scratch my back.
Maybe people have gotten clear videos, but I think I'd be the same, that if I got a really clear, undeniable evidence that this is Bigfoot, I'd be very slow about releasing the video. I don't think I want people to know.
But again, as we're going to see here with this story, these guys like didn't kill the Bigfoot because it was literally, we have video. This is the most solid evidence that any man could ever fucking create, hand over. Here it is. And again, in this day and age, that was the 60s, where, you know, fine, they didn't have as much technology to mess with the picture, but if they did mess with the picture, it was harder to tell that they'd mess with the picture. No, you just go looking at the metadata, and you're like, this is this came straight from an app.
I'd say still back then they'd have to go frame by frame to alter the video, like with the airbrush and the brushing techniques and things like that under the microscope.
And what we find is these guys could never have afforded that, so that clears their name slightly. But it just, it pisses me off. You would think that in this day and age that we would catch something clear. No. I mean, anytime I have seen anything clear on paranormal content camera that's Bigfoot,
it's clearly a bear.
It usually looks like a bear, or it's like some sort of face peeping out at you from the.
Remember the time trees. We thought it was a black plastic bag?
But that's what I was saying. I was just about to say. I remember like going on one of my walks off the back road, and from like fucking, I don't know, half a mile away, because it's a clear walk.
Yeah.
You can see one end to the other. Yeah. I could see something that looked human size. It was completely black, and you could see its coat was flapping in the wind. And as I got closer, I was like, oh, it's just a black bag stuck in a fucking fence.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah. So unless you're going to have the balls to go over closer and to get a fucking better video, you're going to misidentify everything.
If you thought there was a Bigfoot, because I know that generally in those situations, when you see, if you're just regular people, when you're walking along, you see something you don't expect, and it's something scary, your instinct is to turn around and book it, get the fuck out of there as quick as you can.
It would depend. I think that men might be worse for that because women have better intuition.
Yeah, it would depend on who I was with. You know?
What if you're with me? Would you feel safe? It's okay. Amy's got my back.
Well, if I was on my own, my first thought would be, this thing could kill me, take me away into the woods, and no one would ever know what happened to me. I better get the fuck out of here.
It's okay, I got a witness.
At least someone might be able to come help me.
Oh, that's true.
Or at least I could go out being the guy that proved Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But
never go down.
I don't know. What we need is everybody to start wearing body cams full time.
So many people get their backs up over it. Did you ask my permission to record? You do not need to ask anybody's permission to record in public on a public space or anybody else. But people get their knickers in a twist a lot over it, which I can understand.
Yeah, to a degree. Depends on what you're videoing.
Depending on what you're videoing. Yeah, but making everybody wear body cams is a whole other can of worms.
1984. It's going to happen, Amy.
Right. Okay. Well, some nighttime sightings have claimed that the creature's eyes glowed yellow or red. However, eye shine is not present in humans or any known great ape species, leading researchers to suggest that these sightings may actually have involved owls, raccoons, opossums perched in trees, or bears standing upright.
Michael Rugg, owner of the Bigfoot Discovery Museum, once claimed to have smelled Bigfoot, describing the scent as, imagine a skunk that had rolled around in dead animals and then hung around the garbage pits. Sounds like a skunk ape to me. And that's a breed of Sasquatch.
Yeah.
So it's one of the many offshoots of Sasquatch. But I think that's more popular in the kind of Florida area, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Which would make sense if it's hanging around the swamps and shit like that. That's going to be a stinky area.
That's true.
I mean,
do you know what it could have been as well?
What?
If it smelled really bad.
What?
A skunk.
That too. You're ruining our fun here, Amy.
Sorry.
Skunk ape. Okay?
Skunk ape. Okay.
But I mean, again, if you like, we spent a lot of time at the beach as kids.
Yeah.
Even like water that's been there all day with seaweed and shit will start to stink.
Oh, well, yeah, it does.
So you imagine swampy waters with crocs and fucking all that mossy shit that they have floating around in it.
Imagine it smells like bog water.
It's going to reek.
Yeah, like bog holes.
Especially dirty, wet fur of an already notoriously stinky animal, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they're skunk apes in Florida, why they smell so bad.
Because it's really warm down there, so everything's going to get smelly anyway.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah.
Do Bigfoot's sweat?
If they're like dogs, probably not, because all the hair's in their sweat glands, so they'll have to
They're
pant.
just walking around going,
I've never seen an ape do that, though. I don't know. I haven't been around a lot of apes for a prolonged period of time.
I've never seen one sweat, though.
No, I haven't.
We'll have to look that up. Do other animals sweat, or is it all tongue panting?
Tongue panting. So the enormous footprints for which the creature is named are often reported to measure as large as 24 inches long and 8 inches wide.
Hear that, ladies? Oh, yeah.
Some footprint casts have also contained claw marks, making it more likely they originated from known animals such as bears, which possess 5 toes and visible claws.
So this is a common point made by skeptics. They claim most Bigfoot tracks can be linked back to bears and large animals due to the way they shift their weight when they stand on their hind legs, especially when they're going uphill, isn't it? Something to do with the slant in the hill.
But when you look at a bear when it's walking on all fours, you can see that nearly kind of like twist in its hips. Not a full twist, but you can kind of see their weight shifting.
But when you see a Bigfoot cast of a Bigfoot, it looks like a human foot. It looks like an enlarged human foot.
Oh, it does.
You know, to where all the pads are, where all of the toe marks are, where the heel is. So, I mean, surely if it is just another animal standing in a weird fucking way, you'd at least have like sharp imprints from where the nails are sticking in.
Yeah, but that's what they're saying, is that some of the footprint casts have those claw marks.
Okay. Well, most of the ones I've seen haven't.
I've never seen one with claw marks, but some of the casts do have claw marks, apparently.
Well, then they're the bear ones, and the other ones are the Bigfoot ones.
There you go.
I don't know. Anyway.
So ecologist Robert Pyle argues that most cultures throughout history contain legends of human-like giants, suggesting humanity has always held a fascination with some larger-than-life creature. Almost every language had its own version of the being, often translated as wild man or hairy man, while others reference supposed behaviours such as shaking trees or stealing shellfish.
European folklore contains countless examples of the wild man of the woods, creatures typically described as naked beings covered in hair, with only the face, hands, and feet remaining bare. So, yep. Hairy dick, hairy boobs.
There you go.
These figures range from isolated human hermits to monstrous humanoid creatures. I know that we definitely have some spot in Ireland that is supposed to be Bigfoot.
I'm Farley Moore. No, is that our Bigfoot? Or is that the Scottish Bigfoot?
I'm not 100% sure. I just remember, I think it might have been on Paranormal Cotton Camera again, where they had one instance of a video coming from Ireland and a guy claiming that there was a Bigfoot hotspot. Now, of all the places,
Ireland is a very, very small country, and any woodland that we do have in the grand scheme of things is small woodland. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There wouldn't be. I mean, unless it's up in the Wicklow Mountains. Maybe that's all the gangsters get.
The Wicklow Mountains.
They're feeding them to Bigfoot. Yeah. The Wicklow fucking mountains. But yeah. So I mean, yeah.
But we do have. I mean, our fairies are our giants. We do have that larger than life, like he was saying, like Robert Pyle said.
Yeah. But I just
I mean, like here and now sightings, like in the modern day.
And if they were here, it would have made sense that they could, if they existed worldwide, then it would make sense that they might have been here at some point. But considering it's an island that we live on, and considering no one's seen one, and this island is constantly getting more and more urban and taking away a lot of the woodland and the rural areas, and the fact that a lot of the rural areas are fields,
yep,
you know,
yeah,
then they could have been here and just died out because they're stuck on an island. And if more of them can't get in, more of them can't get out. They could have been here before we completely transformed into an island.
That's true.
And got cut off, and it just
when we were like still what Pangea.
So maybe that dude was just hearing the ghost of a Bigfoot.
Yeah, or maybe it's like the other theory where they're interdimensional time travelers.
There is that too. We'll talk about that in It's a Live Action.
Okay. So when European settlers migrated to North America, these myths followed with them. Reports of wild people were documented in areas that are now New York and Pennsylvania. A 2007 paper titled Images of the Wild Man Inside and Outside Europe stated,
"To be sure, the modern Sasquatch is largely the product of a European-derived culture, as possibly to an even greater extent is the Australian Yahoo. Yeah, but you've done this one.
Yahoo.
Is it really a Yahoo?
Let me double check
It
this.
might
for you.
spell Yahoo. I remember us covering this on Mini Monsters.
Is it? There's not. It's a different. Is it a?
Anyway, accordingly, traces.
Yowie. It's a
I
yowie.
knew it was a Yowie. Accordingly, traces of the European wild man are decipherable in both figures. Yet the Sasquatch is partly rooted in
Amerindian.
Amerindian representations of hairy humanoids. What the fuck are Amerindian?
American.
American Indians?
Yeah.
Is that like an old way of saying Native American, or is it like literally like New Delhi fucking in New York?
No. I don't know if it's politically correct. I'm not saying it's not.
Oh well, it's an
correct.
old quote, so I'm not.
Oh, sorry.
I'm good.
Amerindian, yeah, American, yeah. Sorry.
Anyway, even though the relationships between these, which are often described as small, and the giant Sasquatch of the popular Canadian and American imagination is hardly straightforward. So that was Gregory IV. So what he's basically saying is that America and Canada have the Sasquatch and have similar kind of myths.
Yeah.
But the grand scheme of things, the story possibly most likely originated in Europe and Australia and made its way over to America with the people who were going there.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, like, that's one way of looking at it, but I don't know if we cover it here or if we cover it tomorrow, but we're about to talk about it. It seems as if the Native Americans already had their own Bigfoot before the Europeans showed up and kicked them out.
Oh, yeah. I think so.
So let's get into that.
So many indigenous cultures across North America contain stories of mysterious hair-covered creatures living deep within the forests. According to anthropologist David Degling, these legends existed long before modern Bigfoot sightings entered public consciousness. The details vary depending on the region and tribe, but such stories are particularly common throughout the Pacific Northwest. Dr. John A. McClelland, retired professor of anthropology at the University of Arizona, stated,
Legends of the wild humanoid creatures are as old as human history and span the globe. Names and other details vary, but common traits of these undocumented animals are bipedalism, gigantic size, hair-covered bodies, and a potential to cause harm. I should have left undocumented out. No fucking Trump and ICE are going to go searching for Bigfoot to come out. Send them back to Europe. A Native American tradition in the Pacific Northwest tells of a giant hair-covered ogre named Sonoqua, who steals children and food. This is likely the origin of the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot legend.
On the Tool River Indian Reservation, petroglyphs created by the Yukuts tribe at a location known as Painted Rock are believed by author Kathy Moskowitz Strain to depict a group of Bigfoots referred to as the family. It's ominous. The largest glyph is known as Hairy Man or Mayak Datat and is estimated to be around 1,000 years old. According to the Tulare County Board of Education in 1975,
the Bigfoot, the hairy man, was a creature that was like a great big giant with long shaggy hair. His long shaggy hair made him look like a big animal. He was good in a way because he ate the animals that might harm people. So right away there, we got some conflicting evidence.
Yeah. And Yukut's parents warned their children not to wander near the river at night for fear that the hairy man might take them.
Was drowning a major worry in Native and South America? It feels like they have a lot of paranormal and cryptid stories that discourage kids from playing near any body of water
Every
at all.
culture does.
I mean, we've covered it at least twice in Mini Monsters.
Oh yeah.
You know?
But we've covered in Scottish folklore, Irish folklore. There's the same with like
but they
Eastern
seem particularly
folklore.
worried about it in that region of the world. I mean, even Stephen King did an entire book, The Outsider.
Yeah.
On what was the monster called in that again?
Can't remember what his name was.
But that the monster they thought it was basically based off an old Mexican story again about a cryptid that if you got too close to the fucking river would take you away as a child and stuff. I mean, fuck me, that's how they used to discipline children. I mean, they used to do the same thing to us in our generation. I was told constantly that I'd be taken away and taken to an orphanage or taken away by a man. My dad's friend, he'd use him. He's like, oh yeah, he's calling over and on. I'll tell him all about it. And it was like, don't tell him, please don't tell him, please don't tell him. It's like, I don't know this, man. I don't give a shit. I shouldn't give a shit. But
sounds bad, but my mom used to always tell me the chocolate man would take me if I misbehaved in town.
The
chocolate man. It was he's the parking guy, but he used to wear a brown uniform when we were younger, like a Garda, and she used to call him the chocolate man. But the chocolate man's going to take you now. If you
nothing to do with the fact that he was Nigerian.
Definitely was a Nigerian because like the early 90s. True story.
Yeah, he'd be the first. But yeah. I mean, look, yeah. It was. I used to be told that there was some form of I don't know, was it like I suppose like one of those, I thought it was one of those workhouses, or it was definitely one of like a Magdalene laundry situation, because they used to call it an orphanage. My parents, they used to say it was like an orphanage, but they'd tell me they'd send me there if I was bad.
Where was it?
It was in Tralee.
Whereabouts in Tralee? Because it could have been the workhouse as well.
I think up by Balloonic School. I'm not 100% sure. I can't fully remember. I do remember my dad pointing it out to me one time when he was particularly angry at me.
Drive you past it for the crack. So in the 16th century, Spanish explorers and Mexican settlers told stories of the Dark Watchers, large shadowy figures even said to stalk campsites during the night. In what is now Mississippi, a Jesuit priest living among the Natchez people in 1721 recorded stories of screaming, hairy creatures that stole livestock from the surrounding wilderness. Cherokee folklore tells of the Sul-Kalu, slant-eyed giants said to dwell deep within the Appalachian Mountains, beings often linked by modern researchers to the Bigfoot legend.
Hi, we're back, and now we're about to get ourselves cancelled. So far, we have talked about the chocolate man coming to take Amy away, and now we're talking about slant-eyed monsters in the mountain.
I have explained my chocolate man, thank you very much.
Well, explain to us the slant-eyed monsters then, please.
All we were doing was translating Cherokee language. So members of the Lumi tribe tell stories of creatures known as Semiquis. While details vary between families, the creatures were consistently described as wild humanoid beings living beyond civilization.
In this country, we just call them mountain men.
Mountain men.
Remember Killing the Scully did a whole fucking episode on the taking the
we've mountain men, we've got bogger men, we've
where
got
the mountain men come down for matchmaking festivals.
Yeah, they were hairy as well, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, big deer. Obviously, they're
monobrows.
unkempt, wouldn't be kind of taking care of themselves living in the mountains all year
There's no women to do it, Josh.
Oh, that's why they came down for the matchmaking fucking festivals.
Some versions portrayed them as dangerous nocturnal monsters used to frighten children into obedience. The Iroquois spoke of the Genasqua, I hope I'm saying that right, also known as the stone giant, a massive hair-covered creature with rock-hard skin. In 1847, painter Paul Kane documented stories of skookums, cannibalistic wild men said to live around Mount St. Helens.
I thought we were supposed to be not talking about cannibalistic people in the woods anymore.
You picked
How
it.
did we end up here again? Okay.
Sawyers go back about that long. Even U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt wrote about such encounters in his 1893 book, The Wilderness Hunter. Roosevelt recounted a tale told by an old mountain man named Bauman involving a foul-smelling bipedal creature that ransacked a trapping camp and later killed Bauman's companion by snapping his neck. Roosevelt noted the man appeared genuinely terrified while recounting the story, though he personally suspected old European superstitions may have influenced the account.
And it's not completely unfounded. When was the Detova Pass incident? That was...
I'll tell you now.
That was... It wasn't that long ago. It was definitely within the last 100 years. That was in Russia, where this group of young people...
The Dyatlov Pass. That was 1959.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It wasn't that long ago.
No.
But that was like a situation where a bunch of, I think they were in their 20s. Might have been teenagers, but I think they were in their 20s. They went, and it was in Russia.
The Ural Mountains.
Huh?
The Ural Mountains
Yeah,
in
and
Russia.
they were staying in tents.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the night, they were completely fucking massacred. Like there was body parts falling. Was there body parts? This has been a long time since I covered this thing, but there was parts of bodies falling. Some of them were never found at all. Some of them were found in their underwear or something like that, trying to get away from the place, frozen and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, some of them died of hypothermia. Some exhibited severe internal and physical trauma. One hiker suffered massive skull fractures, while 2 others had severe chest and rib injuries equivalent to being hit by a car.
Yep.
2 victims were missing their eyes. 1 woman was missing her tongue and part of her jaw, and some of their clothing tested positive for unnaturally high levels of radiation. So do you know what that says to me? Interdimensional.
Well, possibly. I mean, but it is one of the few scenarios where Bigfoot has been accused of violence in the modern age.
So where are they accounting for the
That'll be
radiation with Bigfoot?
Hmm?
Where are they accounting for the radiation then for Bigfoot with that incident? I can understand why they put it down.
I don't think Bigfoot is the one and only sole fucking theory on
I
this
need to look
situation.
into this more.
But
UFOs, military testings,
Yeah.
Yetis, secret Soviet agents.
But the Yeti does play into it, which would definitely be the Russian
Well,
equivalent of Bigfoot because of the snow and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a white Bigfoot, isn't it? Like white-haired Bigfoot.
Well,
Polar
catastrophic internal injuries to me will line up with something like Bigfoot, or like they said,
Oh, yeah.
nuclear testing, like
Fucking-
maybe a radiation shockwave or something like that came and threw them back.
I mean, it's Russia. You don't know what those motherfuckers are up
And
to.
it's huge. They could be up to anything, anywhere.
And we've all seen Stranger Things.
That's true as well.
So, it's my turn, isn't it?
Sure is.
Okay, so less threatening stories also exist. So the Reverend Elkanah. I'm fucking terrible with names. You're so good at like fucking phonetically working this shit out. I look at him and I'm like, what the fuck? Elkanah? Yeah, Elkanah. Elkanah Walker. Walker, Texas Ranger. No,
Good
Walker,
cover.
a Protestant missionary. Recorded tales in 1840 from indigenous communities near Spokane, Washington, describing giants living in the nearby mountains who stole salmon from fishermen's nets, which is interesting because Washington is pretty much where we're dealing. Washington State would be
Sure is, yeah.
what we're dealing with today. So then there's modern sightings, and this is where things get interesting. Modern, no, I'm saying the last 100 years.
Okay.
The earliest one I have
Just
here
over
is
100
the Ape Canyon incident.
Mhm.
So it's alleged that on July 16, 1924, in an article published in the
Argonian.
Oregonian. What a shit name for a paper. The Oregonian.
Because it's Oregon. Or the Oregonian.
Times, or the Oregon today. I don't know. Fucking something better than the Oregonians. So anyway, brought national attention to a bizarre story involving a group of gold prospectors and what they described as an ape man near Mount St. Helens. The prospectors claimed they encountered gorilla men around their remote cabin in a gorge deep within the wilderness. One of the men, Fred Beck, later stated that he fired his rifle at one of the creatures. That night, the men claimed their cabin came under attack. Well, you shot at them, what do you expect?
Yeah.
It was retaliation.
Yeah.
According to their reports, the creatures surrounded the structure and hurled massive rocks onto the roof, damaging the cabin and allegedly knocking Beck unconscious. The terrified prospectors fled the area the following morning. All I can picture is fucking black sheep.
Oh, yeah.
One or two boys in the
yeah.
cabin, and they're just destroying the cabin
Yeah.
worse and worse.
I remember.
The U.S. Forest Service later investigated the site, but found no convincing evidence to support the claims, concluding the entire story was likely a fabrication, which is something that will happen common here. Where
Yeah.
people will tell their story
Liars.
and then they'll be like, liar. However, stories of large hair-covered mountain devils have existed in local folklore for generations before that incident. So in that area, people had already been speaking about the gorilla men.
Mhm.
Which would make sense considering the place is called Ape fucking Canyon. I mean,
Also.
if it's called Ape Canyon, then you
There's
have
a
to have an
reason,
ape there at
guys.
some stage, right?
There used to be a zoo.
Anyway, it's pretty much Ape Canyon is cemented as a
Bigfoot hotspot.
Yeah.
I like the story of the Bossberg Cripplefoot tracks, though.
Poor Cripplefoot.
Poor Cripplefoot. It's a terrible name. So
All I can think of now is fucking The Land Before Time. Padfoot was the big guy, wasn't he? He was the main character, wasn't he? What was the little girl one?
Oh, don't, because I always get upset when I think about The Land Before Time.
She got killed by her dad.
Well, there's that, but it always made me cry when I was younger at The Land Before Time. I think they get separated from their parents, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why it made me cry. Also, that one, that's terrible. So on November 24th, 1969, large human-like footprints featuring what appeared to be a crippled or deformed right foot were discovered near the Bossberg town dump. Earlier that same year, a local woman had reportedly contacted police claiming she had seen a Sasquatch in the nearby area. The mysterious track maker became known locally as the Bossberg Cripple, though the figure is now more commonly referred to simply as Cripplefoot.
That's because the Bossberg Cripple makes him sound like a serial killer.
It does, yeah. You have to make him seem a bit more...
Bossberg Cripple struck again.
Cripplefoot seems a bit more approachable. On November 27th, Bigfoot researcher Jacques Lafleur arrived to investigate the scene, though by that point, many of the original prints had already been trampled by sightseers. Lafleur photographed the best remaining tracks and created plaster casts. He was later joined by fellow researcher Bob Titmus, who returned roughly a month later. After 2 weeks of searching for additional evidence, Ivan Marks and Jacques Lafleur reportedly discovered what became one of the most famous Bigfoot trackways ever recorded. On December 13th, 1969, they claimed to have found 1,089 giant human-like footprints in the snow near Lake Roosevelt, close to Bossberg. The tracks crossed back and forth over a river and stretched through the surrounding wilderness.
Did they count that shit? Did they literally walk along me like 1, 2, 3?
Have you ever seen
4?
Bigfoot researchers on TV? They would be that
Meticulous.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Most researchers would be that meticulous.
But in the snow, you'd have to stand back from a distance and count that shit. You couldn't like walk
You could.
through the tracks and be like 1, 2, 3, 4. If you fucking lose count, you're after stamping all over all the other tracks with your feet.
Well, you walk beside them, not on them.
Yeah, but they're over and back and over and back and over and back, which means they have to be kind of trampling over themselves as well at the same time, don't
Unless, yeah, maybe one start at one end and the other start at the other end. And if you don't see a footprint, you know the other person hasn't been there.
Wow.
I'm sure they had a way of figuring this out. Anyway, anthropologist Grover Krantz later joined the investigation, photographing and casting the prints. Filmmaker Dr. Wallace Wrightwood, that was a hard name for me, don't know why, and his assistant Dennis Jensen also arrived and remained in the area full-time for a period.
It sucks for you because Wrightwood is a main character and we'll be saying it constantly for the next hour.
I'm going to call him W. The casts and photographs were eventually studied by primatologist John Napier and anthropologist Jeff Muldrum, both of whom expressed belief that the tracks were authentic. Jacques Lafleur, however, remained cautious.
One incident especially bothered him. Before Lafleur and a passenger supposedly encountered the tracks, driver Ivan Marks abruptly pulled over, walked off into the woods alone, and returned moments later, insisting they needed to retrieve camera equipment immediately because he had just found the tracks. Lafleur later noted that they had passed an abandoned Jeep shortly beforehand and suspected its occupants may have been responsible for creating the tracks themselves. Still, despite his suspicions, Lafleur ultimately accepted the prints as genuine. It's got to be discouraging, though. You're on the trail of a disabled Bigfoot and you still can't catch him. What fucking chance do you have with the healthy ones?
Yeah. But just what you were saying about Lafleur, it feels like a lot of Bigfoot researchers, they could find the planks that the tracks were made with and they'd still be like, these are genuine Bigfoot tracks.
Yeah, you will see just how stupid people can be in this, especially Lafleur. Especially, there's another story that comes up about him later. I actually accidentally had it in here twice. It's a part of this story, but I'm going to leave it to later. Okay. And it'll show you just how delusional they can get in that sense.
Like I've seen, I can't remember. I think it was a series about tracking Bigfoot, but I lasted like one episode because they started collecting hair samples, saying this is definitely from a Bigfoot, and it's like, lads, you're in an American wilderness. Do you know
Well, yeah, all
where
that
do you
can be
think?
tested, though, no?
Yeah, it can be tested, but how dead certain they are that they've got Bigfoot hair before it's even fucking tested.
Not even just no.
Yeah.
I mean, that shit was tested back
Oh,
then.
back in the
back in-
1800s, they'd have been sent to a zoologist,
That's
and a
what I was gonna
zoologist would
say.
have a wealth of
Even the
hair
Ape Canyon
samples. Like,
incident would have been in 1920,
yeah,
whatever.
and you can
Would have
tell.
been able because we watched Nandor Fordor and the Talking
Yeah,
Mongoose this week,
yeah.
right, with Simon Pegg.
Oh, they had the hair in that.
And
yeah.
but that is a true part
It
of the
is,
Jeff
yeah.
Talking Mongoose story.
Mm.
That the dude who claimed, I can never remember the family's name because I always remember Jeff, but the family who claimed that Jeff was real, they were asked for a hair sample. They sent the hair sample,
It came from
and
their
it was
dog.
clearly from not just a dog, from
Their
their
rare,
dog.
that's what I'm saying. Their
You
dog.
know?
Was it a red setter? It was red hair from a
I
dog
can't
anyway,
remember,
wasn't
but
it?
it was definitely. It was like we can 100% say this came from your dog. You
Yep.
know, and so it's like.
How do you refute that? How do you turn around with a barefaced lie and be like, it
I'm just
absolutely is
happy
not from
that
our dog?
Jeff creeps me the fuck out.
I would hope he was real.
Yeah, the way they showed him at the end of the movie is all nice and fantastical and all that kind of shit. But
You have a real thing about, I see Dr. Dolittle was one of my favourite stories growing up.
that doesn't bother me.
So,
Talking animals.
hang on. I'm really confused about what scares you so about talking animals.
I think the
So every time-
mongoose situation is more of a playback to Rimini Riddle again and Otter.
Because
Otto
there
the
is an
Otter.
otter in it.
And
Okay.
he creeped the fuck out of me.
But otters
But
was-
it depends on how they talk to you too.
what, if they're polite to you, they're fine?
If it stands right here in front of me and has a conversation with me, I could probably handle that better than something that is hiding in the walls that I only get to see glimpses of running past and then starts talking to me in the echoes of the cavities of my fucking wall, making it all hollow and creepy sounding. And it sounds all like this and giggle.
But if it was talking to me nice, still from the inside
and then you
walls,
piss
it's
it
like-
off and it starts crying like a baby just to scare you and creep you out. That does not sound like a nice, friendly entity to me.
Sounds like
Especially
a
when it's
sensitive
admitting-
entity, Josh.
And it's admitting itself that it's not really a mongoose. It's more of a ghost than anything. Because it goes on about being fucking decade or generations old and all this kind of shit. Now, it wouldn't stop me from going there to check and have a look myself, but it still
True
creeps
for
me
you.
out.
I
a
mean,
little bit.
Pennywise is generations old if you look at it.
And I find that creepy too. So I
That's
mean,
true.
anyway.
Ay. Then there's the infamous Wrightwood LaFleur film.
And we are up to our actual main story. Let's
Yes.
go.
So according to their account, on the afternoon of October 20th, 1967, Dr. Wallace Wrightwood and Jacques LaFleur were riding horseback upstream along the eastern bank of Bluff Creek. At some point between 1:15 and 1:40 p.m., they approached an overturned tree with an enormous exposed root system near a bend in the creek. As they rounded the obstruction, they noticed a large logjam left behind by the 1964 flood and then saw the figure. The creature was either crouched beside the creek or standing near it on the opposite bank.
Before we go any further, that is like for people who don't know, a big sign of Bigfoot being in the
It was an
area.
overturned tree.
Yeah, overturned trees,
Mm.
like with roots sticking up and everything because they literally just push them over. Or
And if
whatever.
there hasn't been a storm recently, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing is huts. They build their own little huts. They're
Oh.
very makeshift, shitty little kind of like just like little roofs made out
Yeah.
of branches.
When you've
and
got that
leaves.
much hair, you're not going to need that much
But-
shelter.
But if you're in a Bigfoot area, you might find Bigfoot houses.
Ooh.
So LaFleur later admitted he immediately entered a mild state of shock, which you would.
Mhm.
You know, you see this, you'd be like, "What the fuck?" And everybody has seen this video.
Oh yeah, everybody. You cannot have
Of
gotten this
Bigfoot
far without
walking,
even, yeah.
taking a little peek over his shoulder and walking on.
But I can see his arms, the ways, I've seen it so many times. Like everybody has the way his arms move, the peek over the shoulder, then him kind of turning and walking again.
So, Wrightwood initially estimated the creature stood between 6 foot 6 inches to 7 foot tall, though later he revised that estimate upward to 7 foot 6 inches, which is a huge jump again.
It is,
1 foot
yeah.
is still a big jump. Other researchers later argued his estimate was likely exaggerated by roughly a foot. LaFleur estimated the figure was close to 6 feet tall. So is that like a baby Bigfoot? Is that just a small
Stunted
Bigfoot? Is it a
Bigfoot,
Bigfoot whose
teenager
mom
Bigfoot?
smoked while she was pregnant? Is it? Well, like, I mean, what are we looking at here? I mean, I'm taller than that, a 6 foot Bigfoot. I'm 6'1".
To me, I'm on the other side because it looks taller than 6 foot to me in the video.
To be fair, if you can get away with a 6 foot Bigfoot, if I tell my brother not to cut his hair or shave his beard for a while,
Bigfoot.
that dude's hairy enough that we could like send him off in a Speedo, take a few pictures from a distance, and people
Show him how we want him to walk and all. Like, show him the video. Say, this is what you got to
Hey
do.
Dave, how hairy's your ass? We need you to go do something.
So, the film they captured allegedly shows a large, hairy, bipedal creature covered in dark hair with prominent breasts visible beneath the body hair. The appearance generally matched countless other Bigfoot descriptions gathered over the years.
So hairy boobs.
Hairy boobs?
Under
Were they prominent boobs? Or do they just mean prominent as in for a male? Like, this is what they describe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is we only ever really see it from
the
behind,
back, kind of side and back,
away.
like
So,
the side
how
boob.
are you going to know? Like, you know,
That's true.
Especially if they're saying there that it was under the hair.
Maybe it was 6 foot because it was a woman Bigfoot.
Maybe didn't think of that.
6'6", still tall for a woman.
Anyway, Wrightwood claimed he was roughly 25 feet away from the creature at its closest point. And whereas I said a foot is a big difference when it comes to your height,
When you're standing
a
back
foot
that
in
far.
fucking distance ain't that far.
No,
And
But why can't they give the tape to actual mathematical experts that would be able to calculate the ratio? And
it
be
has
like,
been over and over. And
oh,
over and
so
over and
so
over
they're
and over.
kind of the general consensus by these people is that it was about 6'6".
About 6 foot.
About 6 foot. Okay.
Yeah.
So he later stated his horse panicked upon seeing the figure, forcing him to regain control of the animal, dismount, retrieve his camera from his saddlebag, and begin filming. As he moved forward, he reportedly shouted to Lafleur,
"Cover me!" Meaning he wanted Lafleur to ready his rifle.
Lafleur crossed the creek on horseback while Wrightwood advanced towards the figure with the camera.
Wrightwood later estimated he came within 60 to 90 feet of the creature. He just said he was 25 feet from it. So fucking how can you...
Lafleur was 25 feet from
Okay, all right.
camera tits. Lafleur dismounted with rifle in hand, but chose not to raise the weapon towards the creature, which is a good choice. He later admitted regretting that decision, stating a body would have provided far stronger evidence than grainy film footage and might have spared him decades of accusations that the event was a hoax, which is why if I got a good video, I would be very reluctant to share it with the public because you don't know what people are going to do with the fucking rifle. Oh yeah, body of a Bigfoot. Yeah, perfect. Go get it. I'd keep it to myself.
Well, that is kind of the point of today's story. They do keep it. They want to keep it. So that's kind of what the Hendersons wanted originally. But I think I get what they're saying here because this is kind of like a common discussion within paranormal, encrypted, and ufologist kind of world of. It's hard, like when people look at people who make UFO claims or alien abduction claims or Bigfoot claims. Usually it's like, oh, well, they're just trying to cash in. They're just trying to make money out of it. It's like, you do not realize that these people do not make a penny out of this
No,
shit.
they don't. They fund all this thing themselves.
They are made fun of. They are fucking plagued and tormented for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah.
It's really only kind of the last decade or so where people have been like, oh, well,
He saw a UFO.
You know, maybe we could talk about that. You know, you come to this convention and you might make money and stuff like that, but it's still not a great life for these people.
No, it's not. It's not.
So, yeah.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
So the figure initially moved away from the men, reaching a distance of roughly 120 feet before Wrightwood began pursuing it directly. The resulting footage, approximately 59.5 seconds long, remains one of the most famous pieces of alleged Bigfoot evidence ever recorded. The early portion of the film is extremely shaky as Wrightwood runs after the figure. Then, at around frame 352, the creature famously turns and glances back over its shoulder towards the camera. Wrightwood later described the expression on the creature's face as one of contempt and disgust.
I wonder why that is. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is the gun thing. Maybe it is like they
I think
saw
it's the gun thing. I think they know what a gun is.
Like, well, disgusting humans.
Yeah.
Yuck,
As in,
you
he
know?
was happy to fucking sit there and do whatever, but you took the gun out, so fuck you guys.
And to be fair to them, I watched the footage last week again in its entirety, the whole minute or two of it. And there's a lot of shaking where you can tell they're running.
They're running. He is running after him. Yeah.
And to try and get a shot.
Yeah.
And it does take a while before you actually see anything. There's earlier shots in that footage as well where you see Florida on his horse kind of doing the rounds. But you see the Bigfoot and you see a lot of shaking, then you see the Bigfoot, then you see a lot of shaking again when he runs.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Again, not as easy as today, I would assume. Even though I suppose they had those small little ones with the little handle on it. And, I mean, they would have had handheld recorders back then, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I know that we have a 1960s camera at home in my parents' house, and I don't know if it's a picture camera or if it's a moving camera, because it was my dad's uncle who was living in America at the time had it, and when he came home, he gave it to Dad. But there is a little thing on the side of it, and it kind of winds it.
I've seen like stuff from like the I suppose under 100 years ago, but maybe like 40s, 50s, 60s.
Oh,
where
you
they
have it,
where they have the smaller cameras that they can hand around. I think in my head, cameras were always just huge because when my mom bought one in the 90s, it was a big ass motherfucker.
Oh yeah, we were the same. Yeah.
But it's like when they switched from fucking film to tape, there was suddenly this huge need for this
chunky. Yeah.
And now they're just these tiny little fucks in our pocket, on our computers, on our TV.
And people won't get them out of our fucking faces.
We say as we sit here and record video.
I was just thinking it. Thank you for watching us.
Anyway, yeah.
So shortly afterward, the figure disappeared briefly behind a grove of trees before reappearing again in the film's final moments and eventually vanishing into the forest entirely as the reel of the film ran out.
LaFleur later mounted his horse and followed the creature from a distance until it disappeared around a bend several hundred yards away.
Wrightwood eventually called him back, worried the creature's mate might still be nearby and fearing that he was vulnerable without a rifle. The entire encounter lasted less than 2 minutes.
So maybe if they were worried about a mate, then they did see this as a female.
Yeah, the size and how they described the prominent breasts.
And the lack of balls swinging between its legs as it walked.
Yeah. I wonder how big they are for a Bigfoot.
Well, they do say that if you want to make your penis look bigger, you got to shave off your pubic hair, and then it makes your penis look bigger. So does that mean that to us as humans, the Bigfoot's penis will not look in proportion? It looks small because it'll be hidden within all that hair. And then he'll get like a little manscaping kit and shave around his crotch area, and you'll be like, no, Bigfoot's pretty well hung.
Now, next time I hear of a man that's manscaped, I'm going to think exactly what men on the internet think about women that wear makeup. Fucking cheating.
Whoa, I mean, it's still...
It's still there. It's still all in its entirety. It's just there.
If anything, they're just using the hair as camouflage.
So afterwards, the pair retrieved Wrightwood's horses, which had bolted downstream during the encounter. Wrightwood then filmed a second reel focused on footprints left behind at the scene. The men tracked the creature for either 1 or 3 miles, depending on the account, before losing the trail in the thick undergrowth. They later returned with plaster and created casts of several of the best footprints found at the site.
Again, I mean, 1 to 3 miles is a big fucking variation.
It's huge.
You know,
and if you're kind of experienced with the wilderness and tracking and all that, how do you think 3 miles is 1 mile or 1 mile is 3 miles? Do you know?
Yeah. You'd notice.
You notice.
You'd notice.
I would be even confident in my own ability to be like, that was in or about a mile.
I
I would definitely know if I was walking 3 miles, I reckon.
Yeah, but if you were excited, I suppose, and you're chasing this thing down and your mind is focused on that, it would be hard to tell. But afterwards, surely someone would be able to work it out. But again, conflicting accounts.
Do you know what? Could be whoever was walking and whoever's on the horse.
And whoever's telling the story at the time.
That's true.
Obviously, we've already said Wrightwood inflated the size of the thing from the first account to his
second
retelling.
account.
So,
Yeah.
and you know yourself, you do, as you retell stories, you can't help yourself. They get bigger and bigger and bigger.
The man
and bigger,
definitely had
wilder
some
and wilder
Irish
and
in him.
wilder. Yep.
At approximately 6:30 p.m., Wrightwood and LaFleur met with Al Hodgson at his variety store in Willow Creek, roughly 54 miles south of their camp by road.
54 to 70 miles, roughly.
Roughly. Could have been 105. Wrightwood intended to continue on to Eureka in order to ship the film for development.
Bullshit. He just wanted to go there so he could scream, Eureka!
Eureka!
I found it!
Oh, yeah. I'd have done the same. Either before leaving Willow Creek or after arriving in the Eureka Arcata area, he contacted his brother-in-law, Al Diatley, in Yakima and informed him to expect the footage. Wrightwood also asked Hodgson to contact Donald Abbott, whom Grover Krantz later described as the only scientist of any stature to have demonstrated any serious interest in the Bigfoot phenomenon. Wrightwood hoped Abbott might join them in searching the area with a tracking dog.
Yeah, before we get to Abbott, though, for people who don't know, Grover Krantz,
We already talked about him.
did we mention him once?
Yes.
Did we say what he did? He was a respected anthropologist.
Oh, yeah, we called him an anthropologist.
He was
Grover
a
Krantz.
genuinely respected anthropologist
Yeah.
who was so ahead in his field that he started looking at all these cryptozoology as well, and he'd give it time, and he'd actually do proper experiments and proper research on the situation. So he was kind of seen as the one and only true scientist that you could approach with this kind of information, where he'd give you the time of day.
Okay.
Other scientists would be like,
Fuck off.
please, I got better things to be doing than talking about Bigfoot.
Aye.
But Grover Krantz,
Maybe Bigfoot is the missing link.
Grover Krantz was one of these scientists who kind of was able to legitimize some of these people and help legitimize some of these people, even while hurting his own reputation doing it.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
obviously people in his field, as he got into that, would have said, oh, yeah, he's just a bit eccentric. He's
pseudoscience.
a genius, but he's eccentric and does silly things like chase Bigfoot every now and again. But yeah. So Hodgson made the call, but Abbott declined. Krantz would later argue that the immediacy of these actions worked against the idea that Wrightwood had staged a deliberate hoax, at least on his own part. So with how fast everything happens here, from the footage being taken to him sending it off and making phone calls to have people come down and help him with the research, all happened within a couple of hours. Well, within about a 12-hour window or so, or within a day.
Yeah.
And for all that to happen so quickly almost takes away from the idea that it was falsified. That, and I don't know if I mentioned it later, but members of both men's families have said, his family members have said, neither of these two guys are clever enough to pull this off.
Okay.
You know, as a prank.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So after shipping the film, Wrightwood and LaFleur began making their way back toward the camp where they had left their horses.
Yeah, along the route, they stopped at the Lower Trinity Ranger Station around 9 p.m., where they met with Sil McCoy and Hodgson again. At that point, Wrightwood contacted the Times Standard newspaper in Eureka and shared his story. So again, jumping straight onto it, not holding back.
No.
So he's rather, if this is a prank, it's a very well, or even a hoax. I won't say a prank.
Pranks is different, yeah.
A hoax. It would have been meticulously planned to the second to make everything flow the way it did, or else it was just a genuine thing that was happening. Or maybe these two men got pranked by someone completely different.
Yeah,
there's always that
maybe.
side of things too.
So the pair finally arrived back at camp at around midnight. Early the following morning, sometime between 5 and 5:30 a.m., LaFleur returned alone to the film site after heavy rain began pouring through the area. Hoping to preserve the remaining footprints, he attempted to cover them with bark. Cardboard boxes provided by Hodgson had become soaked and useless overnight, forcing him to abandon the idea.
No, let's have just one look at that before you push on here, right?
What?
We just spoke about these two men not being clever enough.
Yeah,
to
they
pull
put
this
cardboard
off.
boxes out the rain.
Let's put cardboard over the thing to stop it from getting wet.
Did they have cling film back then? Plastic
That's
bags,
like-
cling film.
Hands down, the stupidest fucking idea to stop something getting wet. No, you have made it wet and full of wet, soggy cardboard. Good job.
Yep. Yep. When LaFleur returned to camp, the men decided to abandon any further search efforts, fearing the worsening weather would trap them in the wilderness. Their original route via Bluff Creek Road had already been blocked by a mudslide, forcing them to take the steep Onion Valley Road instead.
See, this is the thing I forget about sometimes as well. That their weather has to be feared. You know, our weather,
yeah.
we have bad weather, but it's just consistently wet and a little cold.
Yeah, we're not getting cut off by avalanches and the overpass and shit like that.
Americans, when they have to deal with bad weather, they have to fucking plan that shit, or they gotta be prepared. I mean, they got
go underground
and fucking tornadoes and hurricanes and snowstorms and mudslides and possible tsunamis if the water hits the wrong fucking way. And bye fucking California. You know, bye Florida.
Earthquakes, you name it. They have. Do they have volcanoes in the US? Are there any active or dormant?
No.
Okay.
No. Maybe in South America.
I need to go.
Almost definitely in South America. Not in the United States of America. They got those geysers though. You know, where the water flows out like Old Faithful and shit.
Geysers? Are they geysers or geysers?
Geezer is a dude.
I know, but I think it's pronounced geysers because I always call them geysers and everybody's like, it's a geyser, Amy.
You always say geezer in front of me and I always think, no, it's a geyser. And
it's
anytime
a geyser.
I've heard it on TV by the Americans themselves, I have heard them pronounce it geyser. Geezer is rather a musician who plays for Black Sabbath or the dude at the other end of the bar. That geezer over there.
And I tell you. Yeah. American English say geyser. This side of the world say geezer.
We don't have any, so we shouldn't be calling it anything about what they're calling
They
it.
do speak English in America, though.
Okay, and it's their thing, so I think they get to name it.
I would assume they have them in Iceland as well. Would they?
Still not here. I think they call them hot springs, don't they?
They don't even try. Yeah, volcanoes in the Americas are primarily in the Pacific Ring of Fire. Yeah, so down towards that end. Anyway, at one point when they were taking the steep Onion Valley Road, their truck slipped off the shoulder of the road and had to be pulled free with the help of a front end loader borrowed nearby. The journey home covered roughly 580 miles, much of it on dangerous logging roads and twisting mountain highways while hauling 3 horses. Meanwhile, questions about the encounter were already beginning.
Yeah, so the U.S. Forest Service Timber Management Assistant Lyle Laverty later stated that he and his team had passed through the exact area either on October 19th or the morning of the 20th and had noticed no unusual tracks. Did anybody in the fucking 60s take decent notes around here? Oh yeah, he's about 6 to 7 foot, about 25 to 100 feet away from me, and it's rather the 19th or the 20th. What time is it? I don't know. 6 or 9 o'clock. It could be daytime, could be morning time. We can't tell. The sun could be going up, it could be going down.
Maybe they didn't have a pen and paper to record it at the time. So then when you're like thinking of it in your mind's eye, you're like, Anyway, after reading news reports about Wrightwood's encounter over the weekend, Laverty returned to the site with his crew on Monday, October 23rd, and photographed several of the footprints. 9 days later, taxidermist and outdoorsman Robert Titmus arrived with family members and created plaster casts of 10 successive tracks. Titmus also attempted to reconstruct the movements of both Wrightwood and the alleged creature on a detailed map. And according to anthropologist Grover Krantz,
Wrightwood had the film developed as soon as possible. At the first, he thought he had bought in proof of Bigfoot's existence and really expected scientists to accept it. But only a few scientists were willing to even look at the film. I am curious, how long do you think if we met a Bigfoot cast and went out and planted some feet around the fucking rural area of Ireland, how long would it take for anybody to notice and for a big deal to be made out of it?
Social experiment.
It wouldn't be good promotion for this too when they finally figured out that it came from this podcast.
Yeah, we should go to Ballyseedy and do it and I wait for the Ballyseedy. What would they call them? What would you call the Ballyseedy?
I have no idea what you're on about, so I don't know.
Put the casts in Ballyseedy Forest and wait for it to be found. Do you know, like the actual imprints? Is that what you're on about? Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out what they call them here.
What?
Would they call them a Bigfoot? If they found
I think if they found a Bigfoot in the ground, they would say that's a Bigfoot. Must have came from a Bigfoot.
That is a Bigfoot, Josh.
Bigfoot or a well-endowed man. Either way, someone's been through here.
So those who did examine it often remained cautious, Several private screenings took place throughout 1968 in cities including Vancouver, Manhattan, the Bronx, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, and Beaverton, Oregon. While some viewers admitted the footage intrigued them, most stopped short of declaring it genuine. Researcher Christopher Murphy later wrote,
The Hinden travelled to Europe with the film in 1971. He visited England, Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, and Russia. Although scientists in these countries are somewhat more open-minded than those in North America, their findings were basically the same.
However, Murphy noted a small breakthrough occurred in Russia where de Hinden met with Soviet researchers Bayanov and Burtsev, who showed far more interest in the footage than many Western scientists.
That's because they had already fucking... Well, this is 67. What
Yeah,
did we
love.
say? When did we say that was?
Was it the 50s? 1959, I
This
think.
sounds like that thing. We better look into this a bit more.
Yeah, 1959. Exactly. This is the perfect cover story. Despite scientific skepticism, Wrightwood still found ways to capitalize on the film's notoriety. He struck a deal with the BBC that allowed his footage to be incorporated into a docudrama. In return, Wrightwood toured alongside the production, mixing the BBC material with his own documentary footage and additional scenes filmed with Al Diatley. The film toured local theatres across the Pacific Northwest and Midwest using a promotional strategy known as forewalling, where heavy local advertising was used to draw crowds for short theatrical runs. The tour proved moderately successful financially.
Yeah, Al Diatley later estimated his own half of the profits total approximately $75,000.
It's not bad for the 60s.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to have a look and see what that is. Well, what is...
I would
what
probably
are we
say about
saying?
150. 75,000
So...
in 1969.
Inflation calculator. Inflation calculator. So what are we saying? We're saying 75 grand in...
US dollars.
1969.
68, 69.
1960. Where the fuck are you? 69. Average. Do they have a date? Or a month? Doesn't matter really, does it? Fuck's sake. Calculate. So that would be today 682,400.
Wow, I was way off. I thought he'd have kind of doubled it. Okay, wow.
No. So that 75 grand was a lot of money at the time.
Probably bought a few houses with that. So the film also generated significant media attention nationwide.
And I am lost here. 1 second. I'm nearly
Keep
there.
going.
Wrightwood appeared on several major television talk shows promoting both the footage and the existence of Bigfoot, including programs hosted by Joe Payne, Merv Griffin, Joey Bishop, and the man
Johnny
himself.
Carson.
Here's Johnny. Articles discussing the footage appeared in publications such as Argosy, National Wildlife Magazine, and Reader's Digest.
One particularly notable radio interview featuring LaFleur aired in Vancouver in November 1967 with broadcaster Jack Webster. Portions of that interview were later reprinted in Lauren Coleman's Bigfoot! Wrightwood also appeared.
Bigfoot!
Wrightwood also appeared frequently on local television stations throughout his touring years, particularly in areas where the film was screening. How are people supposed to ask for the book, though, if they don't know it's Bigfoot! Just go in and shout Bigfoot at the...
Bigfoot! And then everyone runs out of the shop and is like, one for me, please.
Eventually, however, business complications began to mount. Wrightwood sold overlapping distribution rights for the footage to multiple parties, leading to years of expensive legal disputes. As the decades passed, frustration clearly began to settle in.
See, it sounds to me there now like we were kind of talking about how these people don't make money. Sounds like they were making money on this. That they were profiting from this.
And Wrightwood did it dirty.
And that they were just kind of... But this is a really common problem of the time.
Where they sell the rights to more than one group.
People, because it's harder to do the research on who owns the fucking... Like if I
Back
come
then,
and sell...
like,
I could come and sell you the rights and I could go sell the rights to someone in the next town over and they don't know you bought the rights. until the paperwork's all through.
Living in the wrong
paperwork's
time
sent out and
period.
in and out.
Yeah.
It caused a lot of problems. And it's actually, I think, one of the main reasons why this piece of footage is now public domain.
Because nobody could settle on
I
it,
don't
so
think
right,
it's
everybody
settled on
gets it.
who owns it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, according to Bigfoot author Peter C. Byrne, Wrightwood later admitted that in hindsight, he wished he had simply shot the creature and bought back a body instead of a reel of film. So, I mean, I understand this to a degree.
I
right?
understand it, but I don't think it should be done.
No. I mean, no
Just
matter
take
what
a
way you
finger
look
or
at
something.
it, no matter what way you look at it, you're kind of damning the species to hunters and scientists.
It's been played
forever.
Yeah.
Even if this video footage had been proven real, it would have been enough to kind of.
If the video
lend people
footage
to-
had been proven real, it would have been like the gold rush, except it would be the Bigfoot rush. People would have flocked to
Yeah.
that part of the country.
And then it would have became such a fucking thing that if they'd found even more evidence, that suddenly you're getting full woodlands knocked to try and find
Yeah.
this thing. Like, knock his home over so we can find it.
Especially back then. Are
No,
you serious?
alright.
People wouldn't have blinked a fucking eye to knock
No.
whole forest to find it.
Yeah.
So Grover Krantz and Robert Pyle both later claimed that Wrightwood and LaFleur eventually agreed with that sentiment, believing killing the creature would have silenced critics forever and made them far wealthier in the process. Like most strange phenomena tied to cryptids and unexplained sightings, eventually the buzz surrounding Bigfoot began to fade.
Yeah, the television interviews slowed down, documentary offers that dried up, even the endless debate over whether the famous footage truly showed an unknown ape-like creature became so oversaturated that the average person simply stopped caring.
Yeah.
'Cause like we said earlier, this is footage we have all seen a million times.
Yeah.
And every time Bigfoot is parodied, this little clip will be shown in some way, shape, or form as a part of that parody.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. The aftermath affected Wrightwood and LaFleur in very different ways.
Yeah, Wrightwood had genuinely believed the footage would change his life forever. He thought he had finally proven the existence of a creature beyond doubt. In his mind, fame, fortune, and respect from the scientific and zoological communities were now guaranteed.
Instead, though, the opposite happened. Both men became targets of ridicule. Their footage was endlessly dissected, mocked, and dismissed. Critics accused them of either being gullible fools or outright frauds. And over time, stories began circulating that Wrightwood in particular was a desperate conman buried in debt and chasing publicity for financial gain. Eventually exhausted by the constant attacks on his reputation, Wrightwood stepped away from actively hunting the creature.
Yeah, instead, he opened a small roadside museum dedicated to his work and the legend of Bigfoot. Publicly, he adopted a far looser stance on the creature's existence, despite what he claimed to have witnessed firsthand in 1967. Of course, he still put on a show for the tourists and curiosity seekers. Like most roadside attractions, the mystery sold tickets. But when genuine Bigfoot hunters approached him looking for guidance or encouragement, Wrightwood often warned them they were wasting their time. No matter what evidence they found, he insisted the world would only laugh at him. In many ways, he had begun projecting his own disappointment and failure onto the next generation of investigators.
LaFleur, however, reacted very differently to the public rejection of their discovery. He refused to roll over and disappear quietly. If anything, the ridicule only made him more determined, more stubborn, more obsessed.
His goal never changed, but his motivations certainly did.
LaFleur became convinced he would eventually prove everyone wrong and have the final laugh. And from that point onward, he continued his search with a far darker mindset than before.
Yeah, next time he said he wouldn't shoot the creature with a camera, he would shoot him with bullets. Film could be faked, footage could be manipulated, but a corpse is a corpse, and he believed that could not lie.
A dead Bigfoot body would silence every skeptic forever. So while Wrightwood stayed behind, selling plaster casts of footprint replicas to tourists, LaFleur chased leads across the country. If rumors surfaced of a Bigfoot sighting anywhere in America, LaFleur would eventually show up.
Yeah, that obsession was already visible during the Bosberg incident earlier in the episode. This is what I was talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
So, during that Bosberg incident with the Cripplefoot, there was a prospector who claimed to have trapped Bigfoot in a hidden mine shaft. LaFleur arrived with his checkbook open, as did many other Bigfoot hunters, willing to outbid anyone just for the opportunity to see the creature. Even then, he remained suspicious of certain details surrounding the tracks and the evidence. And when the entire story collapsed into a hoax, only for the same prospector to later claim he possessed a severed Bigfoot foot in his freezer, LaFleur once again tried to buy it, only to be fooled all over again. By this point, his ambition has begun blinding him. So, like, the prospector said, I have Bigfoot in the mine shaft, pay me 50 grand, you can have him. And then LaFleur turns up with 50 grand, and the prospector's like, there ain't no Bigfoot in the mine shaft. And he's like, but I got a Bigfoot foot in my freezer. You want that? 50 grand. LaFleur turns up with 50 grand. There ain't no fucking foot in the freezer.
Why isn't he telling him he wants Bigfoot before he hands over the 50 grand?
No, he didn't pay him anything.
Oh, thank God.
He'd turn up with the money, and the dude would be like, yeah, I'm just fucking with you.
That's
just a wild old prospector.
So he became increasingly gullible toward any story involving the ape man, refusing to admit defeat or even entertain the possibility that he himself may have been deceived from the very beginning. His investigations took him across America and occasionally overseas, where he pursued rumors and sightings from every corner of the globe. But eventually, both men settled in what many considered a hotspot for Bigfoot activity, Seattle. LaFleur settled there to continue his endless search. Wrightwood settled there to profit from the tourists hoping to catch a glimpse of the same creature he claimed to have filmed back in 1967.
Now, something that you said a little bit back there, and it's a point I've kind of forgot to make, but the fact that LaFleur was almost afraid to admit that he was being deceived from the very beginning. There's also a thread of a thought that if it was a hoax, the video that is, that not the assumption has been that both men were involved, whereas others have said maybe Wrightwood
set LaFleur up.
Yeah, and LaFleur was there just to
That's
say
shitty.
I saw it as well, you know. So it's definite. It wasn't just one person that saw it. I saw it too. Because he was asked at one point, he was like, "Do you think Wrightwood could have faked it?" And he said, I suppose he could have.
Do you not think, though, if that was the case, it would have been dodgy for Wrightwood to shout at LaFleur to cover him in case LaFleur actually opened fire and whoever was in that costume?
That's a good point. Maybe he didn't give a fuck.
Maybe.
I don't know. But yeah.
Now, also living in Seattle at that time were the Henderson family.
Yeah. So the family consisted of George Henderson, an avid outdoorsman who had grown up working in his father's gun and hunting supply store. George was married to Nancy Henderson, a homemaker who had been with George since their senior year of high school.
Aww.
Together, they had two children, Sarah, who was 16 at the time of the incident, and where the incident we're about to discuss, that is, and Ernie, who was just 8 years old.
As we mentioned earlier, George loved the outdoors and took every opportunity he could to bring his family camping deep in the wilderness, where he hunted, fished, and bonded with his son. Sarah, however, had a very little interest in outdoor life and viewed hunting as a barbaric practice that she wanted no part of. Nancy largely agreed with her daughter's views, but accepted George's hobby, seeing it more as a healthy bonding experience between father and son more than anything else. The Hendersons had spent their entire lives living in what many considered a Bigfoot hotspot, but despite this, they never took the legend seriously.
Yeah, to them, Bigfoot was nothing more than a campfire store used to attract tourists to the area.
Yeah. So while Wrightwood and LaFleur dedicated decades of their lives to hunting the elusive ape man, with little to show for it beyond the controversial footage from 1967, the Hendersons, who never cared to search for the creature at all, would become the people who claimed to have one of the closest encounters ever reported with a living Bigfoot, a creature they would eventually name Harry. And this is their story, exactly as they claim it happened. So it's June 1987, 20 years removed from the famous Wrightwood-LaFleur film. The Henderson family had just spent a relaxing weekend camping in the Cascade Mountains outside Seattle. And according to George Henderson, the family were driving home, chatting, joking, and talking about the weekend they'd spent together in the wilderness when out of nowhere, something stepped into the road ahead of them.
Yeah. At first, George believed it was simply a large man standing on the bend. Scared the shit out of you.
Wouldn't it? So he slammed on the brakes, but there was no time to avoid the collision. The station wagon struck the figure head on. George later admitted he initially felt relief when he looked in the rearview mirror and saw what appeared to be a giant mound of fur lying motionless on the road. Not because he was happy to have hit an animal, but because he believed he had avoided killing a human being.
Yeah, despite his love of hunting and fishing, George considered himself an ethical outdoorsman. He followed strict personal rules regarding hunting, only killing animals for food or population control.
So even though he was no stranger to firearms or dead animals, the thought of leaving a wounded creature suffering on the roadside deeply bothered him. Wanting to see whether the animal was still alive, George stepped out of the vehicle, carrying his hunting rifle, and cautiously approached the body. Based on the size and thick fur, he initially assumed he was looking at a bear. But as he got closer, the reality of what he was seeing became almost impossible for him to process.
Yeah, it was Ernie who finally said it out loud. Sasquatch!
George later claimed it took several moments for his brain to fully catch up with what his eyes were seeing. But once the shock wore off, instinct took over, and George Henderson did what Wrightwood and LaFleur had failed to do 20 years earlier. Using ropes, a pulley system, and the help of his family, he hoisted the giant ape-man onto the roof of the station wagon and strapped the creature down before driving home to decide what exactly to do with the discovery.
In their defense, Wrightwood and LaFleur didn't hit him with his car.
No.
So they didn't really have a chance to put it on the back of their horse and take off running.
That's true. I'm not even sure the horse would have done that much damage.
In fact, he did the same thing they did and did not shoot it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a positive.
What the Hendersons didn't realise was that the creature they would eventually name Harry had not wandered into the road by accident. He was being hunted. And the man hunting him was a familiar name, Jacques Lafleur.
Yeah, by this point, LaFleur had long since established himself in Seattle, considering the surrounding wilderness his most promising hunting ground. Over the years, he had investigated reports of oversized footprints, uprooted trees, primitive shelters, and strange animal scat that could not be matched to any known species native to the region. So we've already kind of talked about the Sasquatch shelters that they like to make, little fucking things. They're nothing. I don't even think you'd pay, unless you were like someone who
if you knew what you were looking for.
Yeah, you'd see it. Otherwise, you just think it was a random collection of
twigs.
Yeah.
Leaves.
Oh, well,
canopies.
branches. Big ass branches.
Yeah.
It's still a Bigfoot carrying that shit around. So, yeah.
LaFleur arrived at the scene of the accident only minutes after the Henderson family had driven away with the unconscious Sasquatch strapped to the roof beneath a camping tarp. But the veteran tracker immediately noticed something important. The Hendersons' license plate had been knocked off during the collision, and from the evidence left behind at the scene, LaFleur quickly pieced together what had happened.
And after dedicating more than 20 years of his life to tracking the creature, he had no intention of allowing someone else to take credit for the discovery he believed rightfully belonged to him.
While Jacques Lafleur began investigating the abandoned license plate at the scene of the accident, the Henderson family finally arrived home. It was late, and they were exhausted after hauling what George later described as a 7'2", 500-pound Sasquatch onto the roof of the station wagon.
Sure, it wasn't just a hairy Big Show. Big Show was literally in the Attitude Era in the 90s. He was always billed as 7'2", 500 pounds.
Maybe that's why he was.
But I'm still not sure if he ever genuinely weighed that much. And I think he might have been about
pretty
7
big.
foot cut off as well. I think 7'2" was always with the lifts in his shoes.
And according to George, they actually had to do it twice. At one point during the drive home, the massive creature slipped loose from the roof rack and crashed onto the road, forcing the Hendersons to stop and wrestle the unconscious ape-man back onto the vehicle before continuing home.
Yeah, they said that he just kind of slid down, looked shocked at them. They looked shocked at him. They slammed on the brakes. He slid back off and they thought he died that time instead.
No, okay.
So they thought he was dead then.
but
Yeah,
no.
clearly no doctors in the Henderson family.
No. Eventually, the family settled in for the night. Nancy, Sarah, and Ernie all went straight to bed and quickly fell asleep. But George couldn't stop thinking about the creature lying out in his garage. He later admitted the whole thing gnawed at him. And around 5:30 a.m., unable to sleep any longer, George got out of bed and quietly made his way toward the garage to examine the beast more closely. But the second he peeked through the garage window, panic hit him. The roof of the station wagon was completely bare, and before he could even process what that meant, the silence of the early morning was shattered by a loud crashing sound coming from inside the house. George sprinted toward the kitchen. Standing there in the darkness was Harry. His massive frame towered over the room, his head barely clearing the ceiling while the pale light spilling from the open refrigerator illuminated the giant ape man. Terrified of what the creature might do to his family or his home, George began wildly screaming and waving his arms, trying to herd Harry back toward the rear door and out of the house.
Yeah, according to George, this was the only time during the entire ordeal that he genuinely feared the Sasquatch.
Harry appeared agitated by his presence. George later claimed he desperately tried to keep the distance between himself and the creature, but Harry just kept advancing. Chairs, food, kitchen appliances. George threw whatever he could grab at the giant, but Harry simply swatted everything aside with ease as he moved closer and closer. And finally, in desperation, George grabbed a pepper shaker and smashed it directly into Harry's face. The cloud of pepper caused the ape man to erupt into a fit of violent sneezing. But by that point, George says he was trapped, cornered in the kitchen with Harry's enormous body and blocking every possible escape route.
I think that would be funny. I think that's where he'd start to see more human to me as soon as he started sneezing.
Yeah.
I mean, when Caesar, our dog, is walking around the kitchen sneezing, it's the most human thing
it
you
is,
ever
yeah,
hear, and it's funny to listen to. So George denies what happened next. Ernie, however, tells a different story. According to Ernie, he woke up to the sound of two terrified screams, one from George, the other from what sounded like a frightened animal.
Nancy later said that when she and the children reached the kitchen, they found George backed into a corner while Harry, now calm and almost gentle in demeanour, crouched beside Ernie making soft purring noises.
George, meanwhile, still looked absolutely terrified.
Trying to diffuse the situation, Nancy grabbed an Alpine air freshener and sprayed it away from George toward the back door. The smell immediately caught Harry's attention.
Yeah, I'd love to know what brand it was, because that would be a great advert for your air freshener.
Yeah.
For a smell that's so real, Sasquatch can't even tell the difference.
The creature followed the scent away from George and toward the rear exit, stepping over the refrigerator, which now lay tipped on its side after Harry had apparently hurled it across the kitchen during the chaos. Now, if you think having Bigfoot loose in your kitchen is as bad as things can get, then you've clearly never lived with a hormonal teenage girl, because Harry's next mistake was personal. The Sasquatch, who the Hendersons quickly realised appeared to be herbivorous.
He was a herbivore.
Yes, he was a herbivore. Reached into the fridge and ate Sarah's preserved birthday corsage, and Sarah absolutely lost it. She didn't care how massive the creature was or whether it could rip a car door off its hinges. She stormed right up to Harry, jabbing her finger aggressively into his chest while screaming at him for destroying something important to her.
Even though I don't know if it's a full-on herbivore, he ate fish too. What's that?
Pescatarian.
Pescatarian. Anyway, earlier in the story, we talked about witnesses describing Harry's face as strangely human-like.
Mm-hmm.
Some hunters even admitted they couldn't bring themselves to shoot the creature because of the emotion they believed they saw in their faces. And according to the Henderson family, what happened next only strengthened that idea. As Sarah berated him, Harry slowly backed away. His expression changed, and the giant creature suddenly looked embarrassed, ashamed, almost hurt.
Until eventually, the emotion appeared to overwhelm him, and he released a massive guttural roar that shook the entire house. George immediately grabbed Nancy and the kids and rushed them out into the backyard for safety. From outside, the family watched helplessly as Harry wandered through the home, smashing through walls and doorways, examining furniture and casually eating houseplants as he went. Then the creature stopped. Mounted on one wall was a taxidermied deer head from one of George's hunting trips.
Yeah, according to the Hendersons, Harry approached the deer carefully and gently stroked it, almost relieved to see something familiar from the wilderness. But then confusion set in. The wall seemed to genuinely puzzle him. How could the deer's head exist without the rest of its body? Okay.
Yeah.
Harry moved into the room behind the mounted trophy and began searching the wall cavity itself, apparently trying to locate the missing body. When he found nothing, he smashed through the wall entirely. Again, the family claimed that the very human emotion crossed the creature's face. The realization that the animal was dead and had been turned into decoration.
Clearly upset, Harry lumbered toward the second floor, smashing the staircase beneath his weight as he climbed 2 steps at a time. Fearing his home was about to be completely destroyed, George made a decision. Armed with his hunting rifle, he climbed a ladder outside and positioned himself near a second-story window with the intention of shooting Harry before things got worse. Inside the master bedroom, Harry sat examining Nancy's mink scarf. A family heirloom Nancy always insisted had belonged to her grandmother and was not something she personally bought. George lined the creature up in his rifle scope, but once again he hesitated because staring back at him was not the face of a monster. It was the face of something frightened, confused, and lost. George couldn't pull the trigger. Moments later, Harry burst from the room and ran outside. And there, in the backyard, the Sasquatch began digging into the earth with his massive hands before carefully burying the mink scarf. Then he returned inside, ripped the mounted deer head from the wall and carried it outside to bury it as well. Realizing what Harry was trying to do, George rushed through the house, pulling down every mounted animal trophy he owned and hiding them away in a closet beneath the stairs.
Yeah, a noble gesture from Harry. These are technically his people. Mm-hmm. Just shows his level of emotion that he felt the need to give them a proper burial.
Yeah.
Plus, it adds to the narrative that we've never found a Bigfoot corpse because they bury their dead.
Yeah.
There's also talk they eat their dead, but bury their
Bury
dead
seems
a bit
better.
more. But even though bury, we'd find something, wouldn't we? You know, eventually.
Eventually, but how many of digs are carried out in forests? Not that many.
You tell me, you're the one in dark.
That's why I just said, not that many. By the time the Henderson family finally regained some control over the situation, morning had arrived. And throughout the rest of the day, Harry remained hidden in the basement whenever visitors came calling.
So you hit a Bigfoot with your car, bring it home, and within hours somehow befriend it.
Yep.
On paper, it sounds like a heartwarming little fairy tale.
Absolutely. But George Henderson, like many people who claimed encounters with the mythical ape man before him, couldn't help but wonder something else entirely.
Could this thing make me rich? And honestly, how could the thought not cross your mind?
Yeah.
You know, it'd have to. George had a family to provide for, bills to pay, and sitting in his basement is what looked like the greatest zoological discovery in modern history. Harry looked like a golden ticket.
I can see why. So while Nancy, Sarah and Ernie headed into town on Sunday morning to restock all the food Harry had demolished during his rampage the night before, George got to work trying to teach the Sasquatch some tricks. Naturally, he started with the basics. Sit. Now, according to George's version of events, Harry picked up commands almost instantly. George later claimed the creature only needed a little encouragement and the occasional sugar cube reward before mastering the trick like an old circus animal. In George's retelling, Harry was calmly sitting on command within hours, and the rest of the family mostly agreed. Nancy, being the eternally patient wife, would usually nod along with George whenever George told the story publicly, although she always looked slightly exhausted hearing it for the 1,000th time.
Sarah and Ernie, however, painted a very different picture. According to them, Harry absolutely did respond to the command sit, but not in what anyone would describe as a graceful or controlled manner. Ernie compared the maneuver to Yokozuna's bonsai drop. Yokozuna would have been very famous at the time, so it makes sense. But yeah, bonsai drop. Bonsai!
Sarah claimed Harry usually crashed straight through whatever furniture he intended to sit on, and occasionally through the floor beneath it as well.
Honestly, based on what happened next, I'm more inclined to believe the kids.
It's a fair assessment because despite the attachment the Henderson family had already formed with Harry, by Sunday evening they collectively decided the creature needed to be returned to the wilderness before things spiraled completely out of control. Unfortunately for George Henderson, absolutely everything the man attempted during this situation turned into a complete disaster. According to George, he ordered an enormous amount of fish sandwiches from a local fast food restaurant, a purchase he later insisted he still had the receipt for as proof. The plan was simple. Load the station wagon with food, lure Harry into the car, drive him deep into the Seattle woodland, and let nature take over from there. As Harry climbed into the vehicle, Ernie became emotional.
What can you blame him? I mean, to the kid, it felt like his father had brought home the greatest pet imaginable, only to take it away less than 24 hours later.
Yeah. And George tried explaining rationally why Harry couldn't stay, but while comforting his son, he failed to notice Harry quietly wandering off into the neighbours' gardens. And by the time George realised the creature was gone, Harry had completely disappeared. George later claimed he spent hours combing the surrounding streets and woodland searching for the Sasquatch before finally giving up and heading home, hoping Harry's instincts would naturally guide him back into the wilderness. That hope evaporated the next morning. Seattle had officially gone into full Bigfoot panic. Reports of Sasquatch sightings flooded local newspapers, radio stations, and morning talk shows.
One woman, Laura Kenny, claimed she woke during the night after hearing noises from her kitchen. When she went to investigate, she allegedly found Bigfoot raiding her refrigerator before fainting from shock. She later woke up lying on the roof of her car, which is weirdly considerate behavior for an 8-foot woodland cryptid, and honestly kind of familiar too.
Yeah.
Apparently Harry had already learned from the Hendersons that unconscious people belonged on top of
You can see the logic.
Yeah, you could. But also that whole fucking paragraph felt like a headline from the National Enquirer. I woke up to find Bigfoot raiding my refrigerator.
Imagine. 9 months later, I was pregnant. Or I gave birth. Another local man, Michael Goodell, claimed he spotted a giant hairy figure spying on his neighbours while they sat in a hot tub.
Yeah, Goodell said he initially assumed it was just a peeping Tom hiding in the bushes until the figure turned around and revealed itself to be what he described as a gorilla man. At that point, he sprinted back inside, locked every door in the house, and called the police.
And he wasn't alone. The Seattle Police Department became overwhelmed with calls from terrified residents, all claiming to have seen the same giant hairy creature wandering around the city. Most officers dismissed the situation as mass hysteria. Sergeant Mancini later admitted that he received a call from George Henderson the previous night reporting the creature, but assumed it was nothing more than a prank.
Yeah, according to Mancini, when he jokingly told George that government agents and tactical teams would need to quarantine the entire neighborhood if the story were true, George suddenly backed off and ended the conversation.
George later admitted that exchange deeply affected him, and for the first time he began seriously considering what would happen to Harry if authorities had captured him. Labs, experiments, cages, dissection. And according to George, he couldn't live with that on his conscience. Still, he tried convincing himself everything would be fine. A few sightings during Harry's journey back to the woods were understandable. Nothing to panic about. At least that's what George believed until he arrived at work on Monday morning. Because by then, Bigfoot fever had fully taken hold of Seattle. The hunting supply store owned by George's father was packed wall to wall with nervous locals buying rifles, ammunitions, traps, and home defense gear. But one customer immediately stood out to George.
Yeah, a man walked in and purchased a box of .458 caliber rounds, the largest ammunition the store carried, powerful enough to drop a bear with a single clean shot.
Whew. George's father later explained exactly who the customer was. Jacques Lafleur, a once respected hunter who had become completely obsessed with Sasquatch following his alleged encounter with the creature back in the 1960s. George wasn't the only Henderson to encounter Jacques Lafleur that day. using the license plate left behind at the scene of the collision with Harry, LaFleur traced the registration through the DMV and obtained the address tied to the vehicle. Then he paid the Henderson family a visit, not as Jack LaFleur, as Richard Smith, a supposed park ranger. Dressed in official-looking outdoor gear, LaFleur arrived at the Henderson home claiming he was following up on reports of an injured animal in the area and wanted to ensure both the family and the creature involved in the collision were safe. Nancy answered the door. LaFleur politely questioned her about the accident, asking whether the Hendersons had gotten a clear look at the animal before it fled back into the woods. Nancy, already suspicious and uncomfortable, quickly shut the conversation down. She told him the creature disappeared before they could properly identify it and insisted that she couldn't help any further. Then she ended the discussion and sent him on his way. But the visit only strengthened Jacques Lafleur's suspicions. Meanwhile, after finishing work that evening, George Henderson made 2 important stops before returning home. The first was the local library. The second was Wrightwood's roadside Sasquatch Museum. And at the library, George searched through every book and article that he could find regarding Sasquatch legends and Bigfoot sightings. Most of the material described the creature as a savage predator, a violent man-eater lurker in the eater lurking in the wilderness. Jesus. None of it matched the creature George had encountered. None of it resembled Harry.
Except for one article, an old piece written by Dr. Wallace Wrightwood. Not only did the article describe Harry almost perfectly, but the accompanying illustrations looked nearly identical to the creature who up until recently had been hiding in George Henderson's basement.
So George decided to seek the man out personally, but by this point in his life, Wrightwood had become deeply bitter. Years of ridicule, failed expeditions, public mockery, and accusations of fraud had turned the once passionate researcher cynical and withdrawn. When George arrived asking questions about the Sasquatch, Wrightwood dismissed him almost immediately. The doctor isn't home. That was the line he gave him. And Wrightwood warned George to abandon the obsession before it consumed him too, insisting the pursuit of Sasquatch only led to humiliation and wasted years. Still, George refused to back down.
Before leaving, he handed over his contact details along with a message intended for Wrightwood himself. Vital facts that could prevent an unnecessary end for the big fella.
According to George, Wrightwood initially laughed at the statement before growing irritated and practically shoving him out of the museum. But the chaos unfolding across Seattle that night would begin to change Wrightwood's mind. Reports of Bigfoot sightings continued pouring into local law enforcement. The panic spread well into the following day, and it was during one of those news broadcasts that Wrightwood saw George Henderson again.
Yeah, a local cyclist was being interviewed live on television after claiming Sasquatch had attacked him during a ride through the city. The man alleged that the creature knocked him from his bike before smashing it apart with his bare hand.
Then George Henderson suddenly appeared on the broadcast and he was furious. Live on television, George openly challenged the cyclist's story. He insisted Bigfoot was not violent, not aggressive. George claimed the cyclist likely startled himself after seeing Harry, crashed the bike in panic, and invented the attack afterward out of embarrassment. What caught Wrightwood's attention wasn't just George defending the creature, it was the conviction behind it. The details, the certainty. George spoke like a man who had genuinely encountered the beast and, more importantly, like a man who believed the creature deserved protection. For the first time in years, Wrightwood began reconsidering everything. Maybe he had dismissed George too quickly. Maybe LaFleur's suspicions weren't entirely madness after all.
Yeah, so LaFleur did contact Wrightwood directly after finding the license plate.
Yeah.
Along with casts of Harry's foot and samples of his hair. But at the time, Wrightwood was used to LaFleur coming to him with casts and hair and claims.
Yeah.
So to him it was just same old, and
Run of the mill.
whatever, come back to me when you have something solid. If you want me to buy these casts off you, I'll buy them off you and I'll sell them on, whatever. Don't make a big deal of it.
Yeah.
He just wasn't buying it anymore. He was jaded.
Yeah.
Jaded by his
Understandably.
whole
Yeah. So Wright called the Hendersons home and arranged a meeting. Not because he fully believed George. Not yet. But because he recognized something dangerous in him. The same obsession. The same conviction. That same road that had ruled both him and Jacques Lafleur decades earlier after the events of 1967.
Now, to be fair to Wrightwood, he wasn't wrong. If he had gone straight to the Henderson home after speaking with George, he wouldn't have found Harry there anyway. Because at that exact moment, the Sasquatch was still loose in Seattle. And George could see the situation rapidly spiraling out of control.
Every hour brought more eyewitnesses' reports. More panic, more gun sales. And George realised that if somebody else found Harry first, especially law enforcement or hunters like Jacques Lafleur, then the creature's fate was sealed. At best, Harry would spend the rest of his life trapped in a laboratory while scientists poked, prodded and experimented on him.
At worst, well, Lafleur had already made his intentions pretty clear on what he was going to do. So, I mean,
exactly.
Shoot him.
Yeah.
Kill him. Dead. Bye.
So, that night, George decided to find Harry himself. Using local news reports, police scanner chatter, and crowds gathering around alleged sightings, George began trying to piece together Harry's movements through the city. And then came what many believers still point to as the single strongest piece of evidence in the entire Henderson case. The testimony of 2 Seattle police officers who had claimed Bigfoot destroyed their patrol car. The officers' names were never publicly released due to the bizarre nature of the incident, but according to the official account, they were responding to reports of vandalism at a local television store.
When they arrived on the scene, they claimed they saw a massive hairy figure standing inside the shattered storefront window holding a television set. At first, they reportedly assumed it was some kind of prank or a man in a costume. I suppose if you're going to have people making these claims, you're going to have people who go out in the fucking gear just to wind people up, to inflame the situation. But as they approached and activated the patrol car lights and sirens, the figure suddenly hurled the television directly at them.
Yikes.
And this isn't modern day television either.
No, it's a box.
This is fucking huge fucking kill Stu Mocker by dropping it on his head, allegedly, size televisions.
Yes. The TV smashed through the squad car windshield with enough force to send the vehicle swerving off the road and crashing into a nearby light pole. Within minutes, police units flooded the area, and among the people racing towards the scene were George Henderson and Jacques Lafleur, both of whom had been monitoring the police scanners in an attempt to track Harry down first. According to George, he found Harry hiding in an alleyway not far from the electronics store. The Sasquatch appeared frightened and disorientated by the growing chaos surrounding him. Thinking quickly, George broke into the back of a garbage truck parked nearby and managed to hide Harry inside the rear compartment before driving him away from the scene and back toward the home before police or Lafleur could catch up.
Yeah, but what he didn't know was Lafleur was on his case. He was on his tail.
Yep.
And he had actually gotten in. Once he saw George rob the dump truck, the garbage truck,
Yeah.
he got into the back, not realizing Harry was already in the back. And Lafleur was armed. He had a handgun.
Yeah.
And he said there was a bit of a... He said from what he remembers, he said there was a bit of a scuffle between him and Harry. The gun fell out of his hand and Harry picked it up and pointed it at his own face. Kind of was like Elmer Fudded it. He looked down the barrel, you know?
Yeah.
But had it right close to his eyes. And at that time, Lafleur slowly made his way over and put his hand onto the grip and in to pull the trigger. But just before he could pull the trigger, cop showed up and George slammed on the brakes, knocking, I mean, like with such force, like they were going at a bit of speed. He hit the brakes and it knocked the dumper part of the truck off and knocked it across the road. Harry got out and got into the truck and they took off in the truck.
Yeah.
And Lafleur was stuck inside in the dumper part and actually ended up getting arrested for the robbery of the dumper truck in general because just down the road from that, George left the dumper truck behind and got Harry into his own car and home as quick as he could. Okay. But Lafleur was blamed for it originally. They always knew he had an accomplice, someone to be driving that truck. They were never able to get it out of Lafleur where it was because he didn't want the cops showing up at the Hendersons to arrest George and find Harry before he could find Harry.
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah. And according to the Henderson family, the following day, Wallace Wrightwood finally arrived at the Henderson home and came face to face with Harry for the very first time. George later claims the reaction alone told him everything he needed to know about the kind of man Wrightwood already or really was. Even Wrightwood himself admitted the moment overwhelmed him emotionally. After decades spent chasing blurry shadows, broken footprints, and ridicule from both scientists and the public, the creature he had devoted his life to was suddenly standing right in front of him, alive, smiling, and gentle.
Yeah, by Wrightwood's own account, he felt like a child finally meeting his hero.
Oh. Harry, meanwhile, appeared almost shy under the attention, awkwardly towering over the room with what witnesses repeatedly described as an embarrassed, almost human expression. But the excitement didn't last long, because Wrightwood also understood exactly what this discovery meant. If Jacques Lafleur had figured out Harry was real and Wrightwood fully believed he had, then the hunt would never stop. Wrightwood had seen firsthand the lengths Lafleur would go to over even the smallest piece of evidence connected to Sasquatch.
Well, we said it earlier when it came to the prospector that was tricking him with the frozen foot and the big foot and the shaft, the mine shaft. He bought it both times from the same guy, took it as gospel, and when it turned out to be fake, believed his next story.
Exactly.
And even earlier than that, when he saw the Jeep in the fucking wilderness where the tracks turned up, and he suspected that maybe there were people in there making the tracks, he was willing to turn a blind eye to that Jeep later and say, yep, I think these are real tracks.
Yeah.
So this is someone who wants to believe regardless of what way the evidence is pointing. And at this point, it's pointing in the direction that suits him, so he's definitely not going to give up.
Yep.
If he's not going to give up when it seems like bullshit, he's definitely not giving up when he knows it's true.
Exactly. And recently, his obsession only intensified. Wrightwood warned George that if Harry was captured and the creature would spend the rest of his life trapped as a living scientific experiment. So together, George Henderson and Wallace Wrightwood agreed there was only one option left. Harry had to be returned home. According to the Henderson family, Wrightwood stayed overnight at the house that evening.
And honestly, the description of the night makes the man sound like he mentally reverted back into childhood the second his lifelong dream became reality. Apparently, Wrightwood insisted on sleeping on the floor beside Harry, using nothing more than a camping mat, spending most of the night simply staring at the creature in amazement.
That's understandable. And the following morning, preparations began to return Harry to the wilderness. But before the Hendersons or Wrightwood could leave, Jacques Lafleur appeared once again. Freshly bailed out of jail following his earlier altercation with police, Lafleur went straight to the Henderson residence, convinced Harry was inside. Wrightwood spotted him arriving first. While Lafleur was distracted approaching the house, Wrightwood quietly slashed the tyres on the hunter's vehicle before loading Harry and the Henderson family into his own truck and speeding away toward the mountains.
Lafleur, refusing to give up, borrowed his words, not anybody else's, the Henderson family station wagon and continued the pursuit.
Traffic delays worked in the Hendersons' favour and gave them enough time to reach the woodland before Lafleur caught up.
I would say you were freshly bailed out of prison for robbing a dump truck, robbing a family station wagon. Probably not the best thing to do the minute you get out.
Once there, Harry was finally released back into the wilderness. Using plaster Bigfoot footprints Wrightwood kept in his truck for museum displays and research demonstrations, the group attempted to create false trails and confuse anyone trying to track Harry's movements through the forest. But unfortunately, the plan didn't work. Lafleur arrived only minutes later and entered the woods armed and alone. And this is where the story becomes complicated.
Yeah, no, it's getting complicated.
Yeah, because from this point onward, the accounts conflict heavily.
Yeah. According to Jacques Lafleur's version of events, he encountered Harry in the forest, saw undeniable humanity in the creature's eyes, and finally abandoned his lifelong obsession with hunting Sasquatch. He had a change of heart. He became a nice person in an instant. And that's his side of the story.
Okay. The Hendersons and Wrightwood tell a different version. According to them, Lafleur entered the woods carrying a rifle, but emerged visibly shaken and without the weapon. Later, a firearm was reportedly recovered nearby with the barrel bent completely out of shape. Wrightwood claimed he personally calmed Lafleur down afterward and eventually introduced him peacefully to Harry, appealing to whatever humanity still remained beneath decades of obsession. According to Wrightwood, Lafleur finally agreed to stop hunting the creature and keep Harry's existence secret. Collectively, all parties involved claimed they had witnessed Harry reconnect with what appeared to be his family deep in the forest. Witnesses described seeing another adult Sasquatch alongside what looked like a younger Bigfoot and even a child-sized creature.
Now, this is interesting because the way they describe it is George himself has said, once they showed themselves, we realized they were always there, is the way he described them.
Yeah.
And what he meant by that was that their camouflage was so good that they could be right in front of you.
And you wouldn't see him.
And you wouldn't twig it. He said, like, one just looked like a hairy rock. He essentially said, like, a hairy rock. You know, like you see on the beach, you see like weird kind of fucking fur on a rock or something like that. He said it just looked like a fucking rock covered in fur. The other two, he said, looked like they were just bushes.
Okay.
And he said, like, literally, he said, like, he was staring at Harry. He's looking at the surrounding area. Did not see anything until all three moved at the same time to join Harry. And he said as soon as they moved, it was obvious they were there the whole time. But up until that point, he would have never have noticed them. So that kind of tells us how good these animals are at hiding amongst us and in the wilderness, and why it is so difficult to get us a clear, solid sighting of these things, because they can just blend in to the background. Exactly. They'll stand perfectly still. And even when we do look at paranormal cotton camera footage of big feet and stuff like that, a lot of the time they are just kind of, really, really still. Even when they've been spotted and you can make out a facial feature or something like that, it's like they're standing behind a tree and they're not moving until you move.
Okay.
It's very rare that they'll keep going. They'll just stay there and freeze.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't know if they think we're like T-Rexes. If I don't move, they can't see me.
If I don't move,
they can't see me. But yeah.
So afterward, they all supposedly agreed to take the truth to their graves.
That agreement lasted approximately a few hours.
Because Jacques Lafleur almost immediately went public.
Yep, in pure 1980s fashion, he exploded across tabloids, radio shows, interviews, and television appearances, enthusiastically recounting the entire story in exhaustive detail.
And because of that, the legend survived. To this day, Bigfoot hunters still view the forest surrounding Seattle as one of the greatest Sasquatch hotspots in America, which, to be fair, has done absolute wonders for the local tourism industry. Now, we get to the really interesting part of this story. What do we actually believe? And maybe more importantly, what parts feel fabricated? So let's start with the arguments against the story first, just so we can end things on a brighter note afterwards.
So first up, Wrightwood and Lafleur do not exactly have spotless reputations when it comes to Bigfoot claims. Yes, they are responsible for the single most famous piece of Sasquatch footage ever recorded, but even today that footage has never been universally accepted as legitimate. In fact, more time is probably spent trying to debunk the tape than it is trying to prove it real. And both men had clear incentives to keep the legend alive. Wrightwood built an entire roadside business around his claims, publishing articles, selling merchandise, and turning himself into a recognizable name within the Bigfoot culture. Lafleur, meanwhile, became one of the most recognizable Sasquatch hunters in North America, touring conventions, giving interviews, selling footprint casts, hair samples, and telling stories from the field. To skeptics, Harry and the Hendersons, they're simply another chapter to a very long history of extraordinary claims with absolutely no physical evidence to support them.
The Henderson family, though, are a slightly different story. Skeptics argue George Henderson also stood to benefit. After all, he was expected to eventually inherit the family business and a family hunting and outdoor supply business even. And if the man who claimed to have spent an entire weekend living with a Sasquatch suddenly became local celebrity number one, well, Hunters would come pouring in looking for supplies. And who better to buy from than George Henderson himself?
But this is where the criticism starts to weaken. Because during the chaos surrounding the story, George actually quit the family business entirely.
Yeah.
He openly admitted he no longer wanted a profit from selling equipment that could potentially be used against Harry or any other creature like him.
And then there's the rest of the Henderson family. Whatever about Nancy standing beside her husband out of loyalty or out of love, Sarah and Ernie gained absolutely nothing from the story. In fact, they suffered for it. Both were ridiculed heavily once the story became public.
Yeah, because whatever about like fucking scientists taking the piss out of other scientists for believing in the stuff, kids are fucking
notoriously,
relentless.
yeah.
And they don't give a fuck if it's real or not. They're still going to make fun of your ass
course
for
they
it.
are.
So, yeah.
Yet, despite decades passing, neither sibling has ever changed a single detail of their account. And to the best of my knowledge, none of the Hendersons ever truly profited from the story. They consistently maintained that if Jacques Lafleur had simply kept his mouth shut, the world would never have heard about Harry Henderson at all. Then there are the witness statements. By the end of that week, reports of Sasquatch sightings across the Seattle area numbered in the hundreds. Skeptics, of course, dismissed this as mass hysteria, but the sheer volume of claims is difficult to completely ignore. And then there's also the damaged police cruiser connected to the TV store incident.
Again, though the officers involved never outright claimed they encountered Bigfoot specifically. Both men only described seeing a large, hairy man, and neither officer ever agreed to publicly identify themselves in relation to the case.
And then there's the Henderson station wagon itself. Today, the vehicle reportedly sits inside Wrightwood's old museum, which George Henderson eventually helped run after Wrightwood passed away in 1993. The car still carries visible damage, including a massive dent in the roof, which George insists happened when Harry attempted to sit upright inside the vehicle. But honestly, for me, the strongest evidence has always been something else entirely. It's the attitude of the people involved. With the exception of Jacques Lafleur, none of them ever behaved like people trying to cash in on a hoax. Take George Henderson, for example. Over the years, he repeatedly stated he doesn't care whether people believe him or not. He insists it was never his intention to go public with the story in the first place. He never wrote a book, never sold movie rights, never charged for the interviews, and he still refuses to reveal the exact location where he struck Harry with the station wagon or where the creature was ultimately released back into the wilderness.
And when George speaks about Harry, he never talks like a hunter discussing a trophy or a scientist discussing a specimen. He talks about him like an old friend. He reminisces about Harry's personality, his curiosity, the chaos he caused around the house, the strange bond they developed over a single unforgettable weekend.
There's a genuine warmth there that's difficult to fake. Like, now, does that prove that Bigfoot exists? No, and not even close. And at the end of the day, Bigfoot may still be nothing more than folklore, wishful thinking, and campfire stories that evolved over generations. But after digging through the accounts surrounding Harry and the Henderson family, I'll be honest, they made a believer out of me.
Yeah, me too. I think I buy this. Well, I mean, again, they did nothing to profit. They made no money from it.
No.
You know, when discussing it, they never talk about it like it's disputable. Or even up for contention. It's just, this happened, that's it.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
Now, I suppose you could say that George, I mean, fine, he got out of the hunting business, but got into the Bigfoot museum business. But from what I can gather, Wrightwood's museum wasn't exactly making millions of dollars anyway.
No, it wasn't.
So it wasn't like from what it appears, he moved down in scale of salary from nearly owning a business, a thriving hunting business, to owning a struggling roadside
attraction
Bigfoot
museum.
attraction,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But again, I think it was a nice way to bring us back in here and get us back going again with a slightly nicer woodland story. Than
well, I don't know. We mentioned cannibals and we mentioned the roadside attractions.
Yeah, but neither of the cannibals.
They don't link in with the roadside attraction.
And the roadside attraction seems very friendly.
So did the other one.
Unless grooming you to be murdered in a house of 1,000 corpses. Anyway, so We are back, and obviously we have this day 3 of our first week back after a little break.
Yeah.
Mini monsters. We cover Bigfoot, obviously.
Obviously.
You can check out Real Talk with the Doctor now in its new format, where I'm just going to cover one movie a week rather than try and do 5 really, really short ones. I do one that's about the same length as Mini Monsters. So they're 2 mini-sodes. Monday, Tuesday are mini-sode days. And this week I am doing the new Faces of Death. Tomorrow we have Bigfoot on It's a Live Action, a bonus show to this, where we talk more about the history, talk more about the different types, talk more about everything Bigfoot. Then on Friday we have the Fright Day Night Freak Show. I really made that name impossible to say, but don't worry, because it'll probably be changing multiple times over the next few weeks as I play this. See, this is the thing. Then Saturday we have nothing, do we? Saturday is the day the pictures go up. And then Sunday there's nothing. I can't remember. Either way. The thing about... I have an idea, but I've got to talk to you about that afterwards. But also on Mondays from 10 to 12, we have Playing Slay with Amy Rose on Twitch and Patreon. And then from 12 to 1, there'll be an extra hour of Playing Slay with Playing Slay After Dark, staying on Patreon for our Patreon subscribers. So the first 2 hours free. Last hour behind the paywall, and that's going to be fun. Again, when it comes to Playing Slay and it comes to the Friday night Freak Show, I think people are going to have to give us a bit of time to figure out what we're doing here. We're going to be doing them. We're going to try, but we're probably going to be tweaking them for the next couple of weeks until we land on what exactly
the sweet spot.
To do.
Yeah.
So to figure out exactly what we're doing. I think we have the Freak Show figured out. And I think Playing Slay is just one of those ones that's just gonna. The only difference between what you were doing and what you're doing
you're going to be in the room with me.
Yeah, I'm gonna just do my work.
Not on camera, but you're going to be on the room with me.
I'm gonna be on a mic. You'll hear me.
Yeah.
You'll be able to talk. Hear me talk and all that. But mostly, I'll just be feeding you stuff to talk about and doing my work here while I'm at it.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that's the plan going forward. See how that goes.
Yes.
So we will be back next week with an absolute fucking massive story starting again that I hope I will be done within a month. I have to.
I leave if you're not. Is that enough of a...
Where are you going to go?
Gotta get it done.
A galaxy far, far away?
No, well, I need a time travel machine to get back.
We'll be back next week with more tales from the Horrorverse. Oh, I wanted to say that. See you all in. Same Alive Time, same Horrorverse channel. Okay, love you. Bye-bye.